Today on the Esports Meta.
It's the least competitive, popular game I've ever seen.
Arcade Mages and Fury Warriors got a little bit of a nerf bat.
I would probably lean towards this champion being more of like a bronze baby.
Couldn't quite make it, but still walking away with a bag. Welcome to the Esports Meta. My name is Billy Sims, and I'm about to bring you all the hottest and latest news in esports and competitive video games. Today, we're talking about Rocket League 2024 World Championship. We've got a recap and a breakdown, the winners, the losers, the prize pools, the happenings, the brackets, all the info, and more. We're also going to be talking about the race to world first. It's kicking off. Mythic Week is here for the World of Warcrafters, and they're going to be pushing hard to be the first guilds, the first players to beat the hardest boss in the first raid. We're also doing an update with League of Legends. We've got some patch notes, the patch notes that are setting the foundation for Worlds. The World Championship's coming up in another week or two, and these patch notes are priming us to see what to expect in the meta for League of Legends. We'll also be running down a little bit of Overwatch if we have some time, and some quick news here and there. But to do all of that, I'm gonna have to bring in a co-host, the one, the only, Nicholas Layton. How you doing today, Nick? Is it good like usual?
That's terrible.
Well, I'm glad to hear something's changed. We've gotten you out of that repetitive streak.
Yeah, my positive funk is finally over. Let's go.
Let's go. All right. Well, we've got a lot of stories to go and hopefully some positive ones too, some positive takeaways for the things happening this week in video games and whatnot. So hopefully that gets you going, helps you get you think. Was there anything that you saw this week that you wanted to spotlight and talk about before we go into the subjects, we're expecting today?
Nothing to spotlight particularly, but we have some really nice news in a couple different areas today that I'm pretty excited about. But nothing to spotlight beforehand because I feel like I would just ruin it. I would spoil the movie. So not today.
No spoilers for us today. That's quite fine. I haven't really seen anything different than what we were talking about. A little bit here and there. I think Helldivers is getting a big patch where they're reverting all the nerfs they basically talked about for the past months where they ruined the game. They're walking a lot of that stuff back. Other than that, it's the same business as usual. So I think it's time we get into the main meat and potatoes of this episode. And we're going to start off by talking about just esports in general. Recently, it came out, we have more colleges and universities showing interest in esports and competitive gaming. If not for the competition's sake, for the recruitment part of the schools. It makes them look good, and it provides a value to kids to choose that school over another one. And no different right here. Idaho State University is going to compete and start competing in esports. This is the first team they're ever fielding. It's the first year they're ever doing it. And generally the games they're going to be competing in seems to be Overwatch, Rocket League, and VALORANT. A main staple 3, but pretty solid choice to entry level this, right? Oh, sorry. I got you right as you're taking a sip of coffee, getting the jet fuel going. But yeah, what do you think about this, Nick?
Sorry, still digesting my G Fuel. No, this is actually super awesome, right? The more colleges that we have go into it is great. I'm a little disappointed at the games because I guess I know why, but I would really like some insight on why they're choosing these specific games, just in general, because there's so many esports games in general. We're not choosing obviously they're not choosing fighting games, but they're choosing shooters. So that's kind of, it's I think schools choosing shooters as their go-to game for esports. I don't know. Someone's going to talk, some comedian's going to talk about it for sure. But what's up? Why no League? Why no Dota?
Yeah. In that way too, they're kind of, at least the headline here. And this could be, I think this is also what the local news is just reporting as not most valuable for information, but they're kind of picking one from each. Overwatch is Blizzard, Rocket League is Epic, and then VALORANT is Riot. They could have easily picked League over VALORANT, but if we move over to the actual official website of the college, of Idaho State University. First and foremost, you can apply to be a part of their esports program. Maybe for this year, maybe for next year. We're starting to see a lot more schools do this, but we'll go over a little bit of the eligibility requirements quickly. But I wanted to point this out to this topic currently. Is the games you can apply for, they're looking for the fall of 2024. They do currently have Overwatch 2, Rocket League, and Valorant through those two competition leagues, NACE and NECC. But they're also asking what other games people are interested in. Apex, Call of Duty, Modern Warfare 3, Fortnite, League of Legends, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. And then another. So in that way, they seem to be open, and maybe this was like a first foray into the space, into not sure what they do. Maybe this is what they just had available. The kids who were interested in this, so they're able to field the team. They had previous clubs or something, or they had the coaching staff willing for just these three avenues. My bad. But they do seem interested in League of Legends for you, Nick. Fortnite, of course, Apex and Smash. And like, I think every college for the last 30 years has had a Smash Bros. Club.
That's exactly what I was thinking. Like, I'm looking at it, I'm like, all right, finally, the Smash community is getting a little something. Like,
yes, from Idaho State University, they're getting a little something.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's, you know how many tournaments we've gone to for Smash that are just like we had to roll up at some college?
Yeah,
like,
too many, man. So many.
Yeah, on the East Coast, it's just like, it's crazy how many end up at a school, right? So
yeah, or
I mean, that's awesome.
Or VFW Hall, right?
Yeah, seriously. Apex is awesome. Call of Duty just taken away. Like, I do know. Anyway,
it is a popular.
Fortnite is like,
it is a popular
sure.
game, and it had a league. I think it still has a league. I don't think they're not playing under Modern Warfare 3, are they?
No, it's the least competitive, popular game I've ever seen. Nobody brags about being good at Call of Duty anymore. No one's gonna like. No one at your college is going to be like, damn, dude, I'll 1v1 you in Call of Duty. It's nonsense. They're more likely to have a 1v1 in Fortnite or Smash Brothers for that matter. So like, just take Call of Duty out of it. It's just another shooter that, like, you know, you don't need 8 different shooters, maybe 2 at max to field like teams or something like that.
Well,
I'm not sure.
Way too, like the genre of shooters. We've got Apex as a battle royale shooter. We've got Fortnite, which is a battle royale, but it's like half builder, half shooter, and they've gone more shooter in the recent, but that's still like a wackier, crazier sort of game. League of Legends as a MOBA, like they could bring in CS2, Counter-Strike 2 for like a tactical shooter. Valorant is.
We talked about that. That ain't happening. There's no shot they're gonna go CS2 with that community. That community is the spiciest community on the planet, bro. Caliente. Like, it's like absolutely not, bro. That thing's pecan. I'm not dealing with that. Like, they're absolutely not choosing the CS2 for that. Okay. There's no shot.
Yeah, I get you. You're saying it's a little too spicy for that Idaho flavor palette.
Bro, I'm thinking how many people went and did a name change service real quick. Like all these college students in Idaho right now who immediately just said, hold on a second, God, change this name real quick. Like, change a Twitter handle. Like,
they might actually be thinking about that, because part of the eligibility and form here, you have to fill out your IDs on these platforms, Battle.net, Steam, Activision, etc. So they might be like searching through. I don't know how in depth they'll be able to check as far as if you have any pings against your player rating, your morality score, etc. But maybe they'll be able to see that, you know, your Battle.net ID is like a 1 out of 5 stars in Overwatch, and you've been playing for 6 years. Like, they might just like, yeah, no, bro, you're toxic. We ain't taking you.
Yeah, right. Like, outside of game, you're lovely, but inside of the game, you know, not so much.
Not so much.
But like, speaking on to like the games that they really should be at, like the Pokemon ones, right? Like Pokemon VGC just alone, or Pokemon Unite, like, are both very nice. As we talked about, they have prize support. They're supported by the Pokemon Trading Company. Like, these are the games that you should be like looking for your students to like really like go into, like if they're going to do careers and stuff like that. Cause what's the fallback?
I agree, man. Otherwise you go into like Excel esports, but like, I think the problem with like a Pokemon esport is that Pokemon hasn't supported colleges. There's no college infrastructure. If there is, it's like it's all club based. Whereas these might already fall into the NACE and the NECC groupings where they're competing. So like, it's like the NCAA where they have this organization that's already sort of ranking and scaling teams in football, basketball, baseball, traditional sports, etc. And they, quite honestly, they do it kind of fucked, pardon my language, but it's all over the place. And like my favorite story of recent, Nick, if you haven't heard, Notre Dame plays in a certain conference. They get 8 games in that conference, so they have to do 12 for the year, I think, they paid a team to come play them. And it's usually a huge boon for the team. They get a bunch of money to go to a high profile stadium that's filled and play this team. And usually they'll lose. But this team got paid like $1.5 million, $2 million to come play Notre Dame and then beat Notre Dame. So like,
very good for them.
It's great for them. It's a wonderful shakeup. They get paid a ton of money. They beat the team and get like ranked on the scale. But like, that's what I'm saying with the NCAA. The ranking system is there, even though it's kind of skewed and weird, because then that knocked Notre Dame out of sort of any rankings, and then bumped that team up. But then like, is that there for esports right now? Is it there for Overwatch, Valorant? They might be already, and that's why they picked those games. Whereas Pokemon, you just have the Pokemon World Qualifiers and then the World Championship, the international competitions, and then that's it. So maybe that's also the first step here. This might be a great starting point for somebody out there, maybe even ourselves, to petition for a Pokemon competition on the collegiate level in the space. Just generally, have that infrastructure into those divisions, into those leagues, essentially.
Probably. Dude, I'm so glad that you said that team beat Notre Dame, man, because like I felt real uncomfortable right up until that point. Like rich school fights poor school to come beat them up. Like I can pay you enough money for you guys to come over and get roughed up, right?
Right. It sounds like the plot to an 80s movie where like the rich kid's like, come on over and play me in 1v1 basketball, and then he just loses. Bro,
it sounds like the higher ups at Notre Dame like hunt people on islands, okay? Like that's what it sounds like. But anyway.
And Notre Dame is like smaller school by comparison to some of these other ones. It's very historic, but like compared to a USC or like a California school, even LSU, talking about Louisiana schools, and like these schools are ginormous, and a lot of it is because of football and because of traditional sports, etc. So they've got these power in them, and where they literally are paying lesser schools to come in and play them so they can get easy wins. To see them now go into like in esports, they definitely have the financial resources. They definitely have the prowess and the influence to make it happen. It's just a matter of where and how. And Pokemon would be super interested, I bet, because it is collegiate, it is more wholesome, but it's still yet to be determined. And it's a good start here with an Idaho State University, a fairly big university, also now getting their foot in the door, announcing it, etc. Just to take a look at the rest of this application before we move on here. Any thoughts as we wrap up on this topic?
Are you an Overwatch 2 player? No, but I have interest. No, but I like. That's great. I hope they pick somebody who answered no to all those things and is just like, gets on a team like, I just like playing Smash, bro. Can we do like
I just want to Smash, bro. Come on. On the bottom here, the interesting question. Are you interested in a leadership position with esports? This might be something where you're getting those Excel spreadsheet people, this corporate future corporation people starting to going, involved in esports business, involved in business management and team management and organization. This is it's the smallest part about this whole application, the last question on it, but I do feel like it's probably one of the most important parts. And we're going to start seeing that happen a lot more, where not just people who want to play the game, but they're going to have programs for people who want to organize tournaments, run teams, organizations, and it's going to multitask with the general business knowledge. But these people, we're going to go into specifically and very quickly who was a part of the inaugural team here, just to shout them out, do a little bit of a good guy moment here, because this is a big deal to be part of this, and they're going to have a lot on their shoulders, essentially. I'm sure it's not going to be like, painstaking, but still, congratulations to these guys. We've got Abigail Janek, sophomore, Dylan Greff. I apologize if I'm going to mess up these names, but I want to just like shout these people out because this is amazing and it's great to see. And these are the people that are leading the charge here in Idaho State news. Then we're moving on to Nathan Parkin, William Ford, Julia Miller, Jonas Miramonte, Brooklyn Larson, Sergio Garcia finishing us out for the Overwatch team overall. And that's kind of cool. I think don't get me wrong, they don't have pronouns here, so I can't tell. But generally speaking, it seems like it's also going to be a mixed roster. So it's generally anybody who's interested, anybody who's competing at that level and making the stage here for them, which is also great to see and something you don't get to see normally in esports. It's very gendered because of bias and whatnot. So having this platform, I think, is also wonderful.
Interesting that they don't have like their like overall ranks. Or like Overwatch, like listed. I guess they might think it like leads to toxicity or something. But I would like to see like what their average, like what the average team rank is. You don't have to give me everybody, right? But like, what's the average between all of them? Like, are they gold, platinum? Like, are they diamond? Like, what can I expect?
That's an interesting thing. And I wonder by recruitment too, if they're going to be looking for that sort of ranking, if they're just going to pick all GMs or if they're going to accept the plat or masters. And a lot of times too, you could be a rank genie and just master that, but you could be bad at the team sport aspect of it. You don't play well with others. You don't coordinate. And that's something that happens traditionally through all different sports. You could be so good that you kind of dominate, but then if you don't understand the team aspect of it, you can't dissect the other team. You can't lift your team. And these are team sports, especially like in Overwatch. You're going to, so I definitely agree. Maybe we'll see that going forward in the future, just an overall average ranking for the team, but maybe they're also going to be competing in the gold lobbies and that's completely fine. But moving into the next game, we've got Rocket League, got Emery Johnson, Bandon Schaefer, Jai Lamson, Adam Storms. Congratulations on getting on the team here and leading the way for the school and for esports in this school. And then lastly, Team VALORANT. Cody Barenberg, Will Nelson, Isaac Turner, Liam Searle, Jonathan Michael. Sorry, that's a four-namer. Jonathan Michael Joseph Stoneback, Isabel Daughtry, and let me say that again. Isabel Daughtry. Why can't I say? I'm tongue-tied now. Isabel Daughtry and Nicholas Ryber. Again, apologies if I butchered your name, trying to push through, but congratulations on making it to these things. It's great to see this kind of collaboration. Great to see the work happening here. I'm sure it didn't just happen overnight. So thank you and keep up the good work, and we'll hopefully hear more from you. See you on the leaderboards as well. Hey, Billy here. Wanted to take a quick minute to let you know a few different things. If you enjoyed the videos so far, please consider liking and subscribing. It really helps us out and it tells the algorithm to share it with more people. You can find the Esports Meta live every week on Twitch and YouTube. It's where we film the podcast or hang out, play games, and chat. If social media is more your vibe, check us out on Instagram, TikTok, Threads, or Twitter if you use Threads. Does anybody use Threads? This is a video game community that's excited to talk about esports, so jump into the conversation. Of course, you can find more videos like this here on YouTube. Just hit that subscribe button right there or there. Thanks for watching, and let's get back to the show. All right. Man, Nick, exciting news. Exciting news with that.
You seem exhausted.
A little bit, man. I was just like running circles in my head, trying to make that happen and trying to just get us through. And how now, Brown Cow? The Human Torch was denied a bank loan. Okay, I'm good. Let's go. All right, we're going to move into the next topic here. And today's Tuesday, which is patch day. It's reset day. And for World of Warcraft, it's a big day because that means today is Mythic Week. We're kicking off Mythic Pluses. We're kicking off Mythic Raid. And the Race to World First is officially gearing up into high speeds. We were talking about this last week, Friday, if you're here for us. And more or less, we saw the preparations, we saw the teams, we saw the breakdown, but the race doesn't officially start today, but we get into the actual meat and potatoes, I've been saying that a lot. We've been getting into the actual competition here. We've had all the preparations, all the multi-raids, all the splits for gearing, all the gold being spent to just get you the placements into the situation and just moving you into position to attack. And today, the attack starts. NA reset started today. EU is happening tomorrow. And we get to see these guilds start kicking off. Nick, have you gotten a chance to watch anything over the past weekend as I prep us into the next part of this?
But I already said I stand Max. Okay. a stand max. Okay, Liquid Max, let's go.
All right, well, Liquid Max
it this time.
Yes, Liquid Max has been hard at work. Team Liquid is already on the leaderboard, pushing forward, pushing ahead. But with leaderboards, I want to talk about our DPS race so far. We saw some patch notes happen today, pretty swiftly, pretty quickly, pretty briefly. Arcane Mages and Fury Warriors got a little bit of a nerf bat, but they're still showing some big representation here. Our DPS numbers as far as heroic goes, we're seeing enhancement shamans go from, I think, top 5 into the number 1 position, but they're not really that far ahead of Arcane Mages, only about 1,000 DPS difference. Arcane Mages are number 2 spot, staying strong in there, really not shifting around. But the big thing is the Warriors. They were at 150 DPS rating before this, and this, take this with a grain of salt, this was only in heroics, but now they've been bumped down to 127. So through all the data since the nerfs, they're doing about 27,000 damage, bringing them in the 3rd place. So a little bit of a nerf bat. Not the worst, but like they're still there, but not necessarily bad.
Probably not even that much, man. Like remember, like once you get to like the mythic raid difficulty, right? Like armor's higher. Like white damage is lower, like yellow damage gets lower, like, and they're all physical damage based. So like, you know, they take a nerf just going into the next tier, just in general. This is why I said like not to nerf them and be like a little bit careful. Yeah. But like, you know, that has a good portion of it. So probably overall, this isn't even like really that much of a numbers nerf. We could probably wait another week and then check like heroic and see like where they are in the heroic compared to 2 weeks ago. But yeah.
The scary part about all this was that with Fury Warrior specifically, scary part for me was that they were so good in single target and then so good in the cleave multi AoE target, right? The council fights and then just the multiple target. So if we take a look at the specific boss, first boss, single target, and then you have like a multi-target AoE portion. So like they're pretty represented here, but like again, same position, second place. I'm sorry, bumping up to 3rd place. So, you know, probably that AoE portion phase of the fight represented. Then we go into the Bloodbound Horror, which has also got a phase of AoE cleave. This one, it hits them a little harder, probably because of the travel distance. They have to move a lot more in this fight, move from the boss into the AoE phases of the ads. Go into the 3rd boss. This is one where it is purely single target, and then this is one we see it drop fairly significantly. I can't seem to find them real quick. Beastmaster Hunter is on top. We saw that last week when we were reviewing the numbers. Subtly Rogue is still there. Arcane Mage, which is a little bit scary, but makes sense. They're in number 3. They're not really moving. Enhancement Shaman number 4, and then Frost Death Knight bumps up because things bump down. Fury Warrior dropping all the way down into the middle of the pack here. I'm not sure if you can see it. Let me try to highlight there. Yeah, right in the middle of the pack. So it seems to be more of a bigger hit to the single target portion of it, which I know we were talking about being careful around, but that seems more in line with what their specialty is, right? They're good at AoE, but not as great in the single target until the execute phase. But, you know, this is, again, heroic. We're taking a look at these heroic numbers to kind of give us an idea what these guilds are going to be fielding, the rosters they're going to be putting in for these bosses as they move forward. Any other things that you kind of see here, Nick?
No, they didn't do it like, you know, it's the thing that I said before, like they're pretty cyclical with their patches for their expansions. Like Fire Mages, like they just don't move, right? Like the people on the bottom, like just don't move. And it's like it's probably like it's usually due to like a scaling issue with World of Warcraft.
That's fair. That's fair. Stuff. And like they did buff Fire Mages, they did buff Balance Druids, which are on the bottom 2 here. Let's take a look back at that like single target / AoE, and it's still the same sort of mix up here. Feral Druids are at the bottom here. Kind of like I'm a little upset to see that, but you know, understandable. I think when I'm looking at this graph, the thing for me, and is kind of representing the others, there's just big jumps from like each section here. So you have a Havoc Demon Hunter in the in this first boss fight where it is a single target and then an AoE phase, a cleave phase. But these guys are just so far ahead, 1.2 million, and then it's 1.1 million. So you're talking about like 100,000 damage difference for the top tier in this boss to the next tier, and then another jump that's pretty like significant. It's insignificant enough to where it's shown on the graph. This is only about 50,000 jump, and then from this one, it's just like a huge fall off. And we take a look at the single target one. I really saw this here, where you've got 1.2 million on the enhanced shaman in fourth place, and then it's 1.18 on the frost DK. So you have about 400,000 difference there. But these are significant like drops. It's not as smooth as maybe Blizzard would want, and maybe that is a gearing issue that we'd see later in the expansion.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I say it all the time. Like, you know, the gear gets so much better. The substats is really like what really start like getting crazy, right? And these like in the tiers and stuff like that. So it makes sense that like classes that require more crit, more the other substats and stuff like that are gonna have to wait more before they actually like do the actual DPS that the other classes are doing right now.
Right. And like that's the nature of a game like this. And it's not necessarily a bad thing, but it does impact what to expect in the race to world first, what these guilds are going to want to field, what they're going to want to do. I know one of the memes was like field like 18 augmentation evokers and then like maybe 2 warriors, fury warriors was the joke. So like you just super pump these 2 good dudes and have a tank just hold as much aggro as possible. But, you know, I don't think we're going to be seeing something like that. That was just the meme sort of strategy. This one definitely represents a little bit more diversity here with the chart, and we'll see how that plays out through the mythic as we start our mythic. But Nick, if you're ready, let's take a look at the actual numbers, because NA has already gotten their reset. They're already playing the game. They've already downed some bosses. Are you ready to check out, see who's already on the leaderboard?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, back into it. And Race the World First coverage. This is provided by Warcraft Logs. Just to kind of keep us honest, we've have 4 of 8 bosses already down, and Team Liquid Max, your man, leading the way for Team Liquid. They're already finished boss 4, and to take a look at the specific headlines updates, Team Liquid has downed the 4th boss, Rashanan, after 1 pull. So Mythic is so far not proving to be crazy difficult, but we are seeing a guild, Mesmerize, defeating Olgrax is the first boss? Yeah. They're taking second place on that. No, third place on the first boss. Third place on the first boss with 8 pulls. So kind of a big jump, but it might also be just exposure as far as the players are able to take on it. We've got 3 guilds in NA already on the leaderboard. Making these pulls, and Liquid seems to be doing it in 1 pull. Melee Mechanics downing the first boss in 1 pull. Melee Mechanics taking 3 pulls for the second boss. You know, this might shape up to be a little bit of an easy front half and then a rough back half.
It usually is. Liquid kind of burst out the gate, right? Like they usually get pretty far in there, and then they get stuck on one thing. But you know, it looks like I think. But like I definitely was wrong. I thought the Bloodbound horror would be actually like tougher in Mythic, and honestly, I think that they didn't tune Mythic enough. If Liquid's going in there with like 1 pull, like oh yeah, you know we've seen this in baby form. Let's do this. Like it doesn't seem right. Well, but maybe, hey, you know,
just maybe in that way too. There's no more mechanics for it. They may have added something, but it wasn't the giant hurdle it was expected to be. You might have seen the most difficult parts in Heroic. I know that specific boss was the LFR killer. Doing that the first week, it was really difficult to have an LFR group understand that they had to run out of the bad, which it's LFR. You're not going to see a lot of big brains there, especially in the beginning. They're going to be slow to like realize what you have to do. They're going to be slow to just kind of learn the fights, and they're not trying to be super intense world first raiders, so that's why they're there. But you know, maybe we saw all the mechanics that we were going to see for that second boss already by the time they got to Heroic, so the Mythic edition isn't really doing a ton. This could also be a pull or a rep difference. Maybe that second boss, Liquid hit, because of all the splits, we're able to get a lot of practice in and scrimmage time, basically running this boss so that, you know, Mythic was a joke. They just kind of understood it, clicked, whereas melee mechanics took a little bit with 3 pulls, had to like adjust to the new mechanic to figure it out, kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, you never know when it comes to like these world first teams, right? Like they could have so many different people like waiting on the side, or they might have actually just like over geared. Like they might have gotten to the point where like they're actually over geared for the first 3, as far as like going from heroic to mythic. So, you know,
yeah,
I don't know.
I'm going to switch up the screen a little bit just to adjust, because we have a bit of a breakdown thanks to the Warcraft log site here. We can see exactly where Team Liquid is right now. If you're not watching them live, which you may or may not be able to, I don't know if they're streaming it right now because they might want to keep things closed door. That's also a fun thing about this event, is that there's a lot of stringency about information. EU doesn't get to start this until tomorrow, which is a disadvantage as far as time goes. But what they can do is they can learn by watching the NA guilds and maybe even play on NA servers briefly to see and get some reps in what's going on. So they do lose out on time, but the argument possibly is that for what they lose in time, they might be able to just make up in knowledge and expectation, because sometimes these bosses are bugged and the mechanics are new, and it takes a lot for them to figure it out. But either way, it's been a controversy and a complaint about the Race to World First, and it does create these tendencies for, you know, espionage, even figure out what are they doing. So Team Liquid might actually be not streaming this to kind of keep this under wraps. Either way, you know, they're
streaming right now.
They are streaming.
Yeah, they're raw dog, and they do not care, I guess.
All right. Which might go to show how much of a joke they think this first part of the raid is. They might not think it's that difficult. They might just go until the wheels fall off and then try new strats. I have seen how they've turned off their stream before, which is, again, that espionage aspect, that information. They want to keep it secret from their competitors. Who's a threat? But currently they're on Brood Twister. Wow, Brood Twister, Overnax, which I remember being quite difficult in Heroic. This is the fight where you get a debuff on you, it explodes, and you need to explode the eggs to do it properly, and you have to control the amount of ads that come through, and that can quickly get out of hand here. They seem to be at 87% as their best pull. This might be the first bottleneck and choke with 1 pull so far on it. They might be, you know, trying to figure things out. Nick, are you seeing anything here so far with these bosses? We want to kind of check out the other bosses too.
No, I'm waiting to see like the second half. Like with them blasting through the first half, like it's not really worth the mention for the most part, is the way that I feel about it.
True. Another point I want to make is, reading in between the lines here, this is the boss that you can choose to go to. You either go to Brood Twister Ovi, or you go into Nexus Princess. Nexus Princess mechanics, I felt in Heroic, were crazy. So in Mythic, I'm sure that would be the one. That was my bet. That was going to be the bottleneck. They chose to go here first, which might mean they feel like they can down it easier, quicker. Maybe maybe they feel the other one was. I haven't tuned into the stream, so I don't know. If you know, let us know. Hit us up on our social medias, or, quick call to action. Follow, subscribe, all the good stuff. It helps us out. Let us know. Be a part of this conversation, because we're video gamers just like you, and we love this stuff just as much as you do. But this could be a tell that they thought the other boss was harder. This is where you can choose one or the other. It's not sequential anymore. It's tough. I haven't watched. I don't know what their thought process is. I don't know if they've shared that with them. But right now, they've only done 1 poll on Brood Twister, and they've gotten down to. They've got 38%. Sorry, 13%. They've gotten them up to 80 to 87% down. Moving into the. What's up? Only 1 poll though.
Only 1 poll. It's they basically probably just said, all right, let's take a break for a little bit. Go do the seldom runs. Like get people to do the heroic runs with them so they can get gear. They're probably gearing up still.
Doing some splits. Maybe they thought this was the DPS check. Perhaps, let us know if you're watching live. We haven't gotten a chance to take a look at their stream and see what their thought process is. And Echo and Method haven't even touched this stuff yet. Waiting for the reset. And then we're going to quick look at the comp. We've got melee mechanics in number 2, and then the early shift number 4, mesmerize number 3, and reverb number 5. Those 3 have just downed the first boss, 4 pulls, 8 pulls, 3 pulls. So taking a little bit longer on their reps. Maybe they have less experience, less exposure. Maybe it's a little bit of nerves now that you're finally in it to win it. But you know, good on them. They're on the leaderboard. They're making their way. Let's see if they can push through. We've had some underdog races, some dark horses come on through before. So it's exciting to see as we are updating you on this race to world first. Last thing I want to look about here real quick is the composition. We are seeing what Liquid have decided to run on this boss, this pull. We might be able to take a look at what they've been able to run on the other bosses, but we've got 2 Frost DKs, 2 Fury Warriors. What's that? Oh, that's 3 Evokers. I think it's Augmentation Evokers, 2 Arcane Mages, 1 Subtlety Rogue, 1 Enhancement Shaman. That's not fire. That's got to be Dustro Lock. And then they got 5 healers, 2 Preservation Evokers, 1, is that Priest? Yeah, 1 Priest, 1 Paladin, I think, and then 1 Shaman. And then they're running, I think that's Monk. I can't see the icon too well on my screen, but it's definitely Feral, Guardian, Bear. But it might be Guardian, Druid, and Monk as the tanks here.
Maybe. I mean, these team comps are like the most, probably the most important part of it, right? Like either you get through something easy because you're cheesing it with like your actual team comp and everything like that, or not. But I mean, like we can definitely see the similarities like already, right?
Yeah.
Like obviously the arcane mages are definitely getting picked. Look at the healer. The healers are essentially the same except for Max and Liquid are bringing 5 healers versus 4.
Right.
Like,
I think this team comp represents the boss they're on as well. We might be able to look a little bit deeper in the other bosses. Let's scroll down actually to the 3 guilds that are running the first boss so we can see their comps. Fury Warrior has had big representation already. And we saw Arcane Mages. Here we are seeing the same sort of. This one, sorry, Early Shift only ran 4 healers and Mesmerize did it with 5. So 1 extra DPS they were able to do in 4 pulls. Kind of an interesting difference, but they didn't have 2 Fury Warriors, whereas the other guilds seem to be doing that. This one was running Unholy DKs. You know, the comp matters so much, and maybe it's about luck where they got a bit more eye level from the splits, from the heroic raids, etc. on certain tunes over others. But then maybe it's also about, you know, this boss is range friendly, this boss is melee friendly, this is AoE cleave, this is single target. You know, it's kind of similar comps overall. 2 Ret Pallies, 2 Frost DKs, 2 Unholy DKs. It might have been that might have been Evoker. What is it? Not Augmentation, but the other Devastation Evoker, actually. And then these seem to be Augmentation. One or the other. Interesting combinations. Because we're even seeing a Fire Mage and a Frost Mage here for Reverb and Fire Mage. Whoa.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. They're like, yeah, I brought my friend. He pumps. He pumps, bro. Like, I promise.
He's juicing, bro. He's juicing.
Absolutely juicing. That's hilarious. Yeah, he's probably doing well, but there's probably maybe there's a reason I'm not playing mage like in this expansion. So like maybe there's a talent that procs, or something along those lines that gives them something that just helps with the team layout, because they do have such a different team comp. It looks like, you know, compared to everybody else. But you know, they have an Ellie shaman, so you know,
yeah,
who knows?
They're also what is it? Running a balanced druid. So like they're definitely pulling on the bottom of the leaderboard, or at least the tier rankings for heroic. Maybe they see something, but this is a boss that has a distinct single target phase and then a very distinct AoE target phase. And maybe, you know, Starfall is just a mindless no-brainer. Maybe the 2 mages, because that's one thing we are seeing. They're running 2 mages up here on Mesmerize. They're 2 arcane mages. Only 1 mage here in the early shift, but they did run an extra DPS overall. And then they have 2 mages down here and a balanced druid. So it might be like an AoE thing, a decision here, and it's only the first boss, but it's still going to indicate how things are going and generally what the race is going to look like. These competitions and these compositions determine so much in this race. Team Liquid, Method, and Echo make it look so easy when they're able to do this so seamlessly. They are able to prepare with so much gear and so much splits and so many runs and so much help that might make the difference overall. It might be like F1 where the top spending teams do the best. But either way, exciting race so far, kicking off. It'll be really interesting tomorrow. See how many more bosses can be beat. See how EU looks at. NA is already in the lead with 4 bosses. If they can catch up. Nick, any final thoughts as we take a look at the updates and the news for the final time?
I mean, this is gonna be like one of the funnier ones, right? Like this, I love this like the first day because NA goes to sleep and like EU wakes up like and then it just starts going ham. So like it's pretty interesting, and I do think that we'll see them like pretty much neck and neck tomorrow, if not seeing Echo actually up a boss or 2 by the time that like they go to sleep, to be honest.
Right, that sleep cycle puts them on cooldown, so you're a little scared waking up, making sure you're not down by 2 bosses or something.
Yeah, they're definitely checking the news, like checking their feed like immediately when they wake up. Otherwise, like they're probably just stressed if they don't.
Right, if they're even sleeping, man. The excitement of the day, let alone the stress of then, oh man, we got to make it the next one.
Yeah, I could definitely see not sleeping.
It is part of the fun with this event, and good luck to all the teams and coverage. Real quick, if you do want to watch any of this, you can check out these guilds. This is the Wowhead article giving a little bit more information. North American teams that are competing, and on the official big scale, there are a lot more that are definitely making their names, pushing out. We saw the top 5 already, a couple new names, but we've got North American guilds, Team Liquid, Instant Dollars, and honestly, European guilds, Echo, Method, and Fat Shark, yes. Asian guilds, Z-Box. And I apologize, I cannot read that. I'm not going to try. So good luck to those guys. We have a lot of coverage here. We got Dungeon Dojo, Raider.io, and Warcraft Logs giving you live updates on their website. These teams will also be streaming on Twitch and YouTube, most likely. Check out their official streams. We'll keep you updated through our social media as well as these podcasts. So tune in next Tuesday. We stream live every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, bring you all the greatest news and latest news of esports and competitive video games. And we want to talk to you guys. So if social media is more your vibe, hit us up at the Esports Meta on all your favorite platforms. Wherever you are, we are as well. And we'll keep you updated. All right. There's that next call to action. I think we're good for that. Let's move on into our next topic, Nick. I'm just going to kind of move us around, get things ready, but I believe we should be talking about League of Legends next. Is that correct?
Yeah, we can talk about League. We got a couple things, even one that you didn't even know about.
Oh, okay. So let's start with a little bit of news then. I'm ready to share and go forth here. League of Legends is in that in-between stage of LCK finals, summer split finals, and World Tournament. But we're finally getting an official, I guess, roster leaderboard. Basically, all the games have finally been decided, and we get to see who's in. And that was pretty much where we left off.
The brackets.
The brackets are finally.
The brackets have been revealed. Yeah, exactly. There you go, Billy.
Yes, a long-winded way of saying it. Thanks for shortening it up, Nick. We left off on Friday, seeing that T1 had lost to DK 2-3. We were waiting from Friday into Saturday to see what the latest update would be. So, Nick, if you want to kind of walk us into this, I can reveal the score whenever we're ready. But, a little bit of showmanship here.
You can go ahead. Obviously, we see KT beat Fox. It was obvious that it was going to happen. And then in a nice little ditty so that we can finally have a nice Worlds, T1 made it to Worlds. They actually beat KT 3-2. Which was an awesome series. It was very nice. There was a few things that were a little bit of hiccups, but T1 came out and swung the bag, man. They did it. They actually made it to Worlds, and I'll be honest, this was probably going to be one of the most miserable Worlds experiences without T1. And I don't mean that as like, oh man, I'm a T1 fan, it's going to be terrible if they're not there. No, I mean it as in like, Faker just got his like $500 skin and everything like that. They made the League of Legends Hall of Fame, and he's like the first inductee into it.
Yeah.
So it would be insane to think that Worlds itself doesn't actually have anything to do with T1 and isn't like Faker based just in general. And how embarrassing would it be if they did that and Faker didn't show up, or that they switched it? We would get like a really terrible showing, right?
Yeah.
So I'm pretty pumped. I'm jazzed that they actually made it through.
Me too, especially after they did so well at the Esports World Cup. It was a little bit of a storyline, right? Like Faker and T1 kind of looking bad at first, and then they were able to push through and win the whole EWC tournament for League of Legends. It was kind of a shame they didn't give a qualifying mark for Worlds Championship, Worlds Tournament for Riot by placing that. Like, didn't get an automatic in. They still had a fight here. But here they are fighting. They beat KT 3-2. Now we have a little bit more story to talk about, of course, with Worlds and what to expect. And this was the one that we were kind of hanging on the edge of our seat for. Not necessarily in the excitement part. It was a good match. I did catch a little bit of it, but more in that, like, come on, man. Faker's got it. This might be the year he retires, but even if it's not, like you said, Hall of Fame, $500 skin. We got to see him in the Worlds. We got to see them competing.
Yeah, man. It's a real shame that KT, like some of the players don't make it. It would have been really, really awesome to see some of them play. And it's a real shame that we can't take, like, I don't want to say like, yeah, let's bring everybody to Worlds. Let's make it like a whole party. But like, it really is super exciting when you see different regions facing each other, and not for the simple fact of like which one's better and which one's not. It's just the flavor is just a little bit different, right? Like that. It's the same food, but the flavor is just a little bit different. And it's just a little bit more appealing as far as I'm concerned.
Well, especially watching North American League and the LCS, man. Like we saw the same 7 teams play each other 7 times. Like I'm being a little bit hyperbolic, but like, yeah, it's a much different flavor because then you get a mix up of stylings, of matchups, and just like thought process with the players. So absolutely.
Yeah. No, it's like, again, like not seeing BDD or Deft like in Worlds is a little rough. Like I do like Beryl as a support too for KT. So like these are some of the players that I like watching. It's just a shame. They could have did some nice stuff in Worlds, I think. And
that might be a question of how they were able to perform through the overall season, where it came down to this last bit, and then they were still competitive. They lost 3-2. It's a bit of heartbreak, of course, to end their season that way. But for the teams that haven't ended their season, let's take a look at who's in the Swiss stage. We've already covered most of this, but we're going to finalize it with the last 4 teams that we're waiting for here. Billy Gaming, D+, FlyQuest, Fnatic, G2, Gen.G, Hanwha Life, LNG, T1, Team Liquid, Top Esports, and Weibo Gaming. Those are our teams in the Swiss bracket. They all have a bit of a break waiting to play after the play-ins, but that's our solidified team set here, solidified roster for the World. So let's take a look at the brackets for the play-ins, and these ones are going to be a little bit more cutthroat. You lose, you're out. You win, you're in. Only 4 of these teams are going to move into the next bracket in the Swiss stage. Those other teams are waiting for them here. And we've got Mad Lions, KOI, Vikings Esports playing against each other, PSG Talon, Pain Gaming playing each other, Gam Esports versus Hawk Gaming, then 100 Thieves and Rainbow. All right. It's pretty straightforward. These teams need to make it. 100 Thieves had a little bit of a Cinderella push at the end of the summer split. But can they do it again? Can they keep NA in the play-ins here? Does it even matter? There's a lot of competition here. This is our first base here, and just a quick thought process, Nick. What do you see kind of pushing through? Because we'll go more in depth later when it gets closer, when we see these games actually happening. But for right now, which ones do you feel are your favorite? Which ones are the favorite, like statistically, and which ones are your personal favorite?
In my head, for some reason, the teams that are sticking out that I think will make it through will probably be Gam Esports, 100 Thieves, Mad Lions, or PSG. Like these 4 teams are the ones to watch, I think. I'm not really 100% sure about pain gaming, but like out of all the research that I've done, they don't stick out to me. But Mad Lions is like just Mad Lions and GAM Esports are two of the most like dark horse esports organizations that ever existed. Like for some reason, they just do stuff sometimes. Like out of nowhere, they're just like, I swear to God, it's like you watch them sometimes and you're like, you guys never played this ever, have you? And then other times, I swear to God, dude, like you literally look at them and you're just like, yo, where did these people come from? These guys are gods on this map right now. Like it actually gets like super crazy that like they just like they have it in them. Like they got it in them, man. It's something about like the coaching over there or something for these teams, but they have it in them to just be a dark horse out of nowhere and really pop off. So I'm really excited about those.
Right. Some teams just got the juice, right? They're able to turn that on during playoffs and they make that run when it matters the most. So we'll keep an eye on those guys, see how it goes. I personally want to see NA have a better run. So 100 Thieves, let's go. Count on you. Let's do it. Let's put the jet fuel in.
Let's do it, dude. Like drink all the G Fuel. Get over there. Like get over there and start juicing, man.
Yeah, like, call up G Fuel and like, this sponsorship, I need the extra special. Let's go. But part of it is going to be concerns about the patch notes. We did recently, about 6 days ago, saw the new patch for League of Legends. We're going to go over that real briefly, give you our takeaways and our thought process on it. But this is the patch note we're going to see being played in Worlds. Wrong screen.
So we still have one more. We have one more patch before Worlds, basically. Right. Like this one is probably going to be the one for like the play-in stages, and then we're probably going to get our Worlds patch like right after play-in stages kind of happen or start up, and we'll get our final patch for Worlds. Yeah, it's going to be 14.9. I think it is like 14.9 is going to be the final patch for Worlds. You know, I can't imagine they changing things too drastically. Maybe if there's like an explicit bug or just like a champ that's like crazy high tier, just outperforming everybody else, they'll make a change. But generally speaking, for competitive integrity, they'll probably be pretty mild changes, wouldn't they? Like this would be the one they baseline everything, and then it'd be small adjustments from here. So this one I feel like is the small adjustments one, right? Like that's how I feel about this patch. But like usually what happens is the patch notes are for viewership most of the time. Okay. Most of the time, you'll see some stuff where like champions like Ari, which is a pretty safe pick, but is also like nice to watch, has a charm, dashes around, does magical damage, is a fox girl, like, you know, is got a lot going for it just in general. It's pretty flashy. So like, so in general, it tends to be really nice for the viewers. Like you can understand the champion pretty easily, but it is impactful and has nice visuals that go along with it. The skins are cool, stuff like that. Plus, Faker has a $500 skin. And like, again, like he's not going to use any skins at Worlds. So like, I really hope people who face T1 just start using the Faker skin and just start spamming emotes, bro. This is the toxicity that I love. Like, this is not even toxic to me. This is like,
that's like wholesome toxic. Yeah, that's like wholesome toxic.
They consider it pretty toxic if you spam emotes and shit like that. So like, spamming an emote is toxicity in League of Legends because, you know, some people are made out of paper and the other ones are just normal. Like,
I thought you were talking about wearing the opposing player's skin. That's kind of wholesome toxic, but spamming emotes, I can see where that kind of fringes a little bit here and there. Maybe contextually matters, but either way, man. Would you say this patch notes when that way, like you're saying, this is there's a little adjustment, small adjustment patch notes, that this is like, you're saying it's adjustments for I guess viewership in that, like maybe to sell skins or just like promote certain characters over others. But do you think this is also
like actual viewership, like specifically for what looks good on the screen when people watch it? Like that's usually where like these patches tend to lead because they don't want like boring things. So like we'll see in the patch notes, like when we go through it, like certain champions that are like strong right now just end up getting pushed out of the meta for what, like the reason why they're in the meta, they just get taken Like it just gets
So
taken
in
away.
that way too, like there's a concept in Overwatch competitive stuff where you're playing an honest hero. Like Ryan is an honest hero. So it's like maybe in that way too, where it looks good on screen, it plays well, the meta kind of works well around them. It's wholesome to like an honest to like a viewership is what you're kind of saying.
Not so much in the sense like I wouldn't really consider like Ari fair, right?
Okay.
Like because of because she has 3 dashes, she has a charm, and she has something. And her W basically is just like untargetable damage when she's next to you. So like it's not very fair. It's a pretty tilting champion if it gets ahead. Where it just goes blam out of the bushes. Ah, I gotcha. And then it just goes away. Like that's how this thing works. It's very, very assassin-y, but also doesn't have to play assassin-y. Like so it has moments where skill expression is there, but usually it's just something that like skill expressive champions that haven't been the mainstay in the meta usually get a small buff, or other people who are in the meta get small nerfs that allow certain champions to take over. And if certain like this is, I'll say a little bit more like in the patch notes, but as certain champions get played more, then other champions in other roles get picked up more because that champion is better when they have these certain champions around, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But, so these small changes do have like good changes overall.
Okay. Before we get into the notes and the specific details, which I'm eager to after talking about it like that, I want to take a look at this picture. I'm not a League player, but this is pretty cool. What's going on here?
This is Thresh's janitor skin, bro. This is slick. The skins are very slick in League of Legends. Like I do say that. So like in the background is also the other. So that's Mundo, the guy. This is Corporate Mundo is his name. It's one of my other favorite skins. Like it's actually hysterical. He's a guy from like the 80s with his phone.
Dude, he's got the giant cell phone. Yeah,
dude. He goes work. He throws the giant cell phone. He throws a briefcase at you. Like, and that's his like hatchet. Instead of a hatchet, he has a briefcase. Like there's some real solid skins, and like that is one of them. And Thresh is an awesome champion, and just him having like a mop bucket and everything like that, and like a mop is like absolutely hysterical. He's got some good skins overall. All the skins in this are pretty slick overall. They're really nice skins, and usually they're pretty good overall. Right, like the League skins, I don't have too much problem with.
And we're talking about Worlds here, so I'm sure they were designing this to be as flashy as possible for Worlds. Like I know we're getting announcements about musical performances and any other ceremonial, like the AR Dragon sort of stuff coming up soon for Worlds. This also probably goes into it. The viewership aspect, the coolness factor. I love that idea of Corporate Mundo in the back here, where he's throwing a briefcase and he's on the phone, work.
It's great, dude. It's great. And he's like business and like just like work. And like that's not like it's so stupid, but so funny at the same time. A lot of these skins do that. They're silly, goofy, but also like they don't look out of place inside of the maps most of the time. If I'm fair, like most of the time they don't look wacky, cartoonish things, inside the map.
No, that's fair. And like a little bit of wacky is a lot of fun, especially for this stuff. As long as it's not breaking the game mechanics, I think it's pretty solid. So I have to agree. From there, let's move into the patch notes. I'm going to jump us into the quick infographic that they provided. Who was nerfed, who was buffed, and the systems changing overall here. I'm going to run through the names quick and we'll go into the details. So the TLDR of what to expect for this League patch. Aurora was nerfed, Azir, Corki, Ivern, Leona, Lilia. Is it Lila or Lilia?
Lily. Damn, dude.
Lilia?
I can't, like now, I can't say that name correctly until tomorrow. If you just asked me what the name of the champion was, I would have been able to say it, but you just fucked me up. Lilia, I guess now, and now it feels weird to me after you like asked me like that. So anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, then Lissandra, Moakai, Misfortune, Nasus, Rel, Rumble, Smolder, Varus, V1 or V. Sorry, V. I read that wrong, and I know V.
She's a star of Arcane. Her name is Vi.
Come on, man.
There's people who don't even play video games who know her name is Vi.
Vi, Zeri, and Ziggs. They all got nerfs this patch. I'm not sure exactly how. We'll go over a bit more in a second. Going over the champions that got buffed: Ari, Gnar, Y, Jarvan, Jax, Jace, Jinx, Lulu, Malphite, Samira, Shen, Vigo, Jin Zhao. Did I pronounce all those correctly for you, Nick?
No.
Close enough? All right, fine.
No,
Fine, bro.
Like they would definitely were close enough. They knew who you were talking to if you said their names. So like, but some of those were like it's Viego, Jin Zhao.
Dude, maybe that's a sketch. Maybe that's a sketch we got to do where it's that Key and Peele teacher just pronouncing all the names incorrectly.
And honest to God, you actually said Maokai wrong, but you said it closer to one of his skins, which is Maokai, where he's dressed as a cat and he throws cats at people. Okay? I told you, these skins are fucking amazing. Some of these are so clean. It's crazy. But yeah. So, and let me see, second row, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That one is named Susan. It's next to Rel. You said that one wrong. It's called Susan.
Susan. All right.
Yeah, it's Susan. But Susan is nasty backwards for you, just so you know. It's a league thing. It's just Susan in the top lane. Big dog Susan.
Okay.
Susie Q. You don't understand this. Like Susie Q. Nasus's kit is designed specifically around Q. Just so you know, Billy.
Okay.
And then it's Nasus, but it's Susan backwards, and it's Susie Q. It's cute.
Was that a design thing?
Actually, I don't fucking know, man. But I gotta tell you, like, it sounds better as a coincidence.
Well, the player base has already decided, and I'm just learning it right now. So there we go.
It's true.
You know, there's probably a lot more to learn here, but let's go into the patch notes. I'm going to bring us over. There's a lot of text with these. That was one of the first things I said to you when we were talking about pre-production. A lot of text with all of it. We're not going to read it all, but we're going to so starting with the champions, Nick, I want you to give us the ones we should look at, where we should stop, or, you know, etc. Lead us through this.
I mean, we can go through them like real quick because like we're going to be like your favorite teacher. We'll go through the whole entire worksheet, but we won't waste time on the things that don't matter.
Perfect.
Okay? Like,
Perfect.
We'll get you ready for the test. So like Ari, as I was saying right now, right? They go into blah, blah, blah. Ari's underperforming, right? And basically you're just getting rewarded for hitting your E. E is really good. It's the charm, right? It's a bullshit move. I'm not even joking. And for reference, there's a character that literally has a move called Unstoppable Force, and he's unstoppable for every single thing in the game except for that charm. If you get hit with the charm, you stop doing what you're doing. So again, like it's just a small increase, goes from 60 to 70. But Ari is one of the champions to like look out for because, as I said before, it's just really nice to watch.
It also seems like it's a damage scaling thing because base damage is staying the same, but then like 2, 3, 4, as you level it up, it's getting increased exponentially all the way up to like a plus 40 damage at the top rank. Next up.
Exactly. So just rewarded for being better.
Okay.
So this is Aurora.
Yeah. Next up,
she has
Aurora.
A lot of mobility. Basically, like, as you can see, like her numbers are just too high. Like her shit's getting cut in half. Like, obviously, like it's like the stuff was just high. I would probably lean towards this champion being more of like a bronze baby, right? Not like, oh, only bronze kid play it, but like it being a real terror in bronze, because it has like invisibility and it has so much movement, and just cutting down some of that movement really helps play against it, like knowing where it's going to go and stuff like that. Because moving too far is crazy. I can't count the Teemos in that, but I think it's close to 2 team. It's getting cut in half by a whole champion, like kind of thing.
Nearly, yeah. And I can see how that like applies to bronze, where it's like they move less. It's easier to hit, easier to follow, easier to chase.
So like Azir, as they said, right? Like it's just a champion that gets picked a lot in pro play because it's like generally like a safe farming champion, and then has some playmaking abilities. It does look flashy. It's pretty easy to understand in pro play. And so they do this thing where they're trying to nerf it for pro play while still letting it play in solo queue. Usually, for the most part, like this isn't going to matter. This is on a rise. Like
Gotcha.
it just doesn't.
All right. So if it's not going to matter, let's just move on then.
Exactly. And here's another quirky one. It's probably not going to matter. Not going to matter too much. Like the Q itself is an overall damage nerf. If I read it correctly, yeah, it's an overall damage nerf.
Yeah.
And then basically the only thing that actually matters is the mid to late game on the R. So like Q doesn't matter in general. Q is not going to matter because only the base damage is getting nerfed by 20 at the top end. But missile barrage overall is getting like a sizable nerf. So it's 40 off each one plus 10% of your bonus AD. So it's removing some of your your late game damage and your mid game damage, right? When you actually have items.
Yeah, that seems like a double damage nerf for the two different moves, which could matter, I guess, for the viability. But yeah, I'll take your word for it as far as it's going to matter more into the mid game here. Let's move into Gnar now.
Base attack damage increased. This usually matters for AD like ADC champions, and Gnar is a mix of an ADC champion mixed along with a tank. Basically, he's what's his name from the Gremlins? Gizmo.
Okay.
Or where he like transforms. Basically, he has a rage bar, and as he goes to 100% rage, he hulks up. He turns into a hulking monster that doesn't have range attacks anymore.
Well, how do
when
you?
He's a little guy.
Yeah.
Doing damage to minions and attacking generates your bar, right? And so like it'll go down, like your rage will subside a little bit as you don't do anything for a little bit, or you can build up your rage or they transform and stuff like that. But most of the time, the thing that you're going to think about is that this would be a really nice increase in damage for like an AD champion, like an AD gun shooter, like ADC, to explain it to you, like you or like somebody else who doesn't like really play League. So this will probably be better for his like early game trading and probably won't affect anything afterwards. Like nothing too crazy because he's not always in the ranged mode where he's attacking from far away.
Okay. Interesting. And I it doesn't seem like a lot of damage. It's only 3 damage on the base swing. But like you said, if it's tied to his rage bar, it's going to put him into a better position for rage and that transformation, which is he's more of a threat in that mode, right?
Yeah, like he has stuns. He jumps and has 2 stuns in that mode. So it's very much like an engaged champion, but like, increasing your damage when you're an AD damage champion, right? This is a increase in damage throughout the whole entire length of the game. Because it's just this base stat that goes up. It's just an increase across the board. All your moves scale, so 3 damage doesn't seem like a lot, but if you add, if you spend $1 every day, it adds up. So,
okay, good to see. We'll see how that plays out in Worlds if he's going to get some picks on that. I'm probably going to say this incorrect, but Hwei?
Yeah, you got it, Hwei.
All right, great. What do we got for him? Them, whatever.
Nice.
It looks like a vampire. So like just off that, I don't know this character and it doesn't have pronouns there. Is it a she? Is it a he? Does it matter? I don't care. I'm kind of tangenting now. I'm gonna stop talking.
Yeah, doesn't matter. Hwei's got a name. Just call him Hwei. So it's pool reflection. It's just ally shield strength reduced by 25%. Like shields just add a lot of value into the game. So it's just reducing some of that value. This is probably more of this is not a pro nerf. This is going to be a bronze baby. Like this is the thing that when I say bronze baby, it's not because it's only bronze people or iron people or stuff like that. There's Smurfs in those leagues, man. Like this is also there's Smurfs in those leagues that go down there for, content. And then there's also people who just stay down there that are gold players. Again, they're Smurfs, but not that, not the same thing, but it's just to do that. Nothing too crazy. That's not going to be too impactful.
All right, that sounds like those people smurfing. And if that's enough of a thing down there, it sounds like a problematic in a competitive game situation, but that's another conversation for another time. Let's move on to Ivern.
Oh man, I read that wrong. It's actually a bow.
Ally shield strength recruits.
Yeah, so it's instead of it being reduced by 50%, it's being reduced by 25%. So you're getting a little bit more shield. My bad. So this one, it might have some thing, but it's probably not going to mean anything anyway. I just wanted to clarify that I read that wrong like an idiot. Dyslexia is a bitch. Like, go ahead.
Happens to the best of us. Happens to the best of us. All right. So in that way too, it's going to probably be one of those menaces to society down in bronze.
Yeah, like, and not even. It's just going to be like, maybe in a couple more patches, we're going to see, like, basically what they're trying to say is like, hey, we noticed that you guys are playing support way.
Yeah.
Like, we don't hate it, but also we can't buff you enough because it's a mid champion. Like, that's basically like what it is. Like, once your mage or mid champion gets support for playing support. Damn, that's a stupid sentence. Get support for playing support, your champion's dead in the mid lane most of the time. Yeah. Like, it's like most of the time, or it just ends up becoming like, power creep. It's just sometimes mid laners end up being there at the end of the day.
That made sense. That made sense to me. The format doesn't support it, so it's just kind of phasing them out. So let's phase this screen out and move on from both of our mistakes into Ivern.
Ivern's great. And basically, like, this one right here is a nerf, but it's a small nerf. And basically, like, the easiest way that I could possibly explain this to you is that he brings an insane amount of value. Like, overall, like, just overall, he has a crazy amount of value. He has, this is a shield that he can put on allies that explodes and deals damage. Okay.
And that damage gives the enemy slow.
Yep. It slows them. But then, like, he also has bushes. He makes bushes in the map. And you've seen the game before where bushes just exist in the map, right? And they're pretty strong. People are just invisible in bushes. He makes bushes. You'll be invisible when you're in the bushes, but if you attack from the bushes, you get a damage buff.
So here's a...
And then you're
okay, that's cool. That's pretty cool. But here's a silly question. We've all played Mario Kart, and every so often somebody gets that fake item box, and they put it in a spot. Wouldn't it be like that, where it's like you put it in a spot that's bad, it's very conspicuous, everybody notices it and goes, that's a fake bush, or that's a fake item box? Wouldn't that be the same here? Like, if you put or does it matter? You put it and then anybody uses it?
Anybody uses it. Anyone on your team uses it to get a damage buff. So when you're taking, like, so here's the crazier one, right? When you have neutral objectives, you can actually place the neutral objective inside the buff. Inside the bush. So it's actually invisible to the enemies, and they can't see the health bar of the actual neutral objective. But even more to that is whenever you go into bushes, auto attacks drop. Like, your moves that go to you basically are dropping. Like, so
it's a very defensive. You line it up so that you can just, like, keep dropping the autos, and then, like,
sure. That is one way that you could use this champion who has a kit of value. He makes it so, and then I didn't even say anything else, right? So, like, he has a shield that you put on someone that does damage, and then it slows people. He has a bush where he can hide people so that they stop getting attacked for a second, and allow, like, put the shield on them. His other move, his Q, is a root, and then anybody who goes to auto attack that person from range basically just flies at that person. Like, they fly to that person's range, like, to their maximum range of auto attack to that person's range. Like, so if I'm a melee champion and you rooted him and I'm pretty far away, there is a set distance, a max distance, where I can click from very far away and be right on top of your shit. This champion has crazy value on a regular basis.
Yeah, there sounds to be a lot of movement, exploitation, etc. between the bushes and then the slow and stuff. That's kind of crazy. I don't even play, and that sounds wild to me.
And his ultimate, is Daisy. Daisy is a swamp, like, stone creature, right? That follows your commands and will, like, you just set it on a person, right? And if it attacks you, it attacks you and puts a stacking debuff on the third attack that it does an AoE damage knockup. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Why?
This champion has value. If this card was in Magic the Gathering, I'd be like, ban the shit out of this card. This card has crazy value for what it brings.
So much.
And to say, like, Ivern currently risks becoming the #1 jungler in pro play, this is a product of what I said before, is people falling back on the things that they're used to. He's always had this value. He hasn't been changed. Like the value has been the same. It's cracked. But it's just he doesn't get picked until he gets picked. But that's Ivern for you. They're just removing a little bit of his value.
Gotcha. And I feel like that statement, they don't get picked and they're not a problem until they're a problem, applies to a lot of things in like a game like League of Legends too. With a roster that big, it's like, it's not a problem until it's a problem. So like you could say it's power creep, etc. But like that design and that kit has so much in it. It probably doesn't have more mechanics, but like it's just able to, like you said, it's got more value. Any sort of other touch on this before we move on to the next champion?
No, nothing else with him. Like, they speak about it. Like Ivern's currently risking blah, blah, blah. Jarvan's great. Jarvan's another champion to pretty much like look out for. Like his damage is going up by 1% on his passive. And basically like the thing about Jarvan is that he's really good for pro play, to watch pro play, because the way that he engages is he throws, basically has like a range. He'll throw his javelin and then he spears to his javelin. Basically, like he'll launch to his javelin real quick and he'll knock up anybody in the way. Right. And then his ultimate is basically like arena, where he basically like it's called cataclysm, but basically he traps you and anybody else in a certain area in an arena, and you can't get out without flashing. So like goes in, dunks on people, and he's like a champion that allows to facilitate other champions. He's one of the ones I was like trying to talk about before, but not ruin the moment of this one. As soon as like just buffing him, the small values, like he adds a good amount of value with CC damage, and basically like the crowd control of just having people stuck in an area, zone control, essentially with his ultimate.
1% passive damage buff helps a lot.
It helps a good amount. Like, so it'll help like across the board. Like it'll help with this like clearing, and it'll help with like just skirmishing against other people as they like rope, right? Like but that'll push him into usually like early game junglers allow for get picked up more on worlds, because as soon as if you get an early gank off, if you are able to get that snowball going, it leads to an eventual win usually if you can close out the game. So he'll allow some less mobile champions on the back line get played, like most likely.
Gotcha. Yeah, they don't want to get him jumped. Okay, let's move on to the next hero, Jax.
So what we got? Jax, like,
seems to be quite a bit to the R.
Yeah, his R is, Jax is crazy. Jax, like, I'm not gonna like, Jax is like a day one champ almost. Like, I don't remember if he's day one or if he's like within the first 2 months or something like that. He's a very old champion. He is strong as fuck. Like,
buffing him.
Yeah, like, well, because like, how do I put this? Like, he's not overpowered, but he's overpowered. Like he scales really well. Like his R, Grandmaster at Arms, it grants magic resistance, it grants armor, and granting 75 armor at max. Like if he's like 18, 75 armor is huge. That's more than one item. Like and 45 magic resist, and he gets on hit damage, and like armor per additional champion hit is going up. Like it's just like he's really good. The easiest way to explain to you for him, he's a close combat skirmisher for the most part, but has the ability to like some skill expression because he's able to like jump. And what I mean by jump is he can jump to anything in the game, whether it be like enemies and stuff like that. And I think he can even like ward hop now too. I haven't played him in a very long time, but yeah, he's a top lane champion. If left alone to his own devices, he's going to just win the game by pushing towers and objectives. And if you let him scale up too early, he ends up just taking over the game. Like a Fed Jax is very hard for a lot of people to deal with because he has an AoE stun for anybody within melee range for him.
Gotcha.
So
okay.
Yeah. So,
yeah, with this buff, it seems to be significant enough to like kind of make that pressure happen a little bit more, right?
Yeah, and like, saying like they're even saying here we'd like to give him a little bit more like late game power. Like that's a dog shit sentence, and And I say that with love, because like you can't buff the first rank of it, right? You can't buff the first rank of it by almost double in some cases, and then say like, yeah, we're looking at 25, 30 minutes. Like, this is level 6. Like, okay, like this is like the first third of levels. All right, when he gets this. So as you can see, it's a 30% increase on the armor per additional champion. It's gonna be 10 damage on the first one, 6 on that one, 10 on the other one. It's a buff across the board for his R. That's pretty much it.
Do you feel like he's going to get played at Worlds, or is this just like a ladder champion?
No, he'll definitely be played. He's always played at Worlds.
Okay.
Like, basically, like, he's one of the champions that like.
So this is just sorry to cut you off, but this is just another, not in a bad way. This is like a viewership sort of champ pick kind of thing.
This is more of like, he comes out when there's significant bans targeted at top laners usually. Okay. Like whenever certain champions end up going out, like there's very few champions who are going to really be able to like deal with them, and that are also competitive across the board, right?
He's an opportunity champ. Gotcha.
Yep. Yeah. Watch out for people who main this champion.
All right. Let's move on to Jace.
Doesn't matter.
Okay.
He's a champion who gets like small buffs. He's a viewership champion as far as I'm concerned.
Gotcha.
He has the ability to like change. He has some cool abilities, like his gun changes. It's either a hammer or it's a gun. It's like the way that
it seems like he's an in and out kind of character. They buffed his movement speed and buff their slow against the enemy. So he's going to slow you down and speed himself up kind of thing.
Yep. Yeah. It's not too much to like really concentrate on, but he's another top lane champion. Good luck picking this champion. It's not like Jax is unbanned, because if you blind picking this guy, like, you're just going to get Jaxed or something. Like, anyway. So yeah. He might pick up the mid lane. That's like basically like he might just be like coming back in the mid lane. And then that's where like pros would like, that's where we would probably see it excel for Worlds.
Gotcha. Yeah, they're just adjusting maybe how we might see him in the competition coming up. But if that's all good, let's move on into Jinx.
Sure. Jinx, the attack speed growth. This is a champion that basically goes up with value the more like people with zone control and stuff like that. So like if people pick J4 more, like Jinx will be better. Like if J4 is your jungler as like Jinx, like you get a little pocket where everybody's just trapped in there, and she has like an AoE gun for the most part. Her gun, like if you've seen Arcane, she has 2 like rapid fire, and then she has like explosive shot. Basically, explosive shots slower than the other one. So overall, like the overall attack speed buff is, buff across damage throughout the game, and will get picked up more because, as they've noted, it's a comfort pick for pros. But if more champions like J4 get picked up, where they're like going in and zoning a lot more, she gets to play. She's a very immobile champion, so she gets to be played a little bit more, and the attack speed growth will help in that matter.
And yeah, like you said, a great synergy pick with certain champs. So hopefully see it at Worlds. Probably gonna, if that's the case. Let's move on into Leona.
Does nothing. Like it does something, right? Like Leona's cracked. I play Leona.
They're only reducing
years.
They're only reducing armor, so they're just kind of trying to reduce her tankiness.
Yeah, pretty much. Like basically, like Leona has her W is increase your armor and magic resistance based on your stats, right? And then does like a little bit of damage overall, and it's only the W. And she is quite like unkillable, like sometimes.
The scaling becomes ridiculous. Gotcha.
And it's always been this way. Like she's always been like this. It's just like, it's not a problem until it's a problem. And like, and it just, with League, there's so many different champion combinations for teams that once it only becomes an issue when, all criteria is met. And she's just getting picked, and with everybody else that's getting picked, she's great. Like, and it's 5 is going to matter, but it's not going to matter. Like she's so strong. She's still going to do her thing. Lilia is the name. Got it.
Moving on to Lilia. Passive monster damage cap decreased. R sleep duration decreased. So they're nerfing her in two different her abilities. What's up with that?
She's just like a really go-to, like early, a really big go-to for AP damage, like magic damage, right? Like we call it ability power, and attack damage. So she's an AP jungler, and sleep is fucked up. That's like the easiest way to think about it. Like 2.5 seconds is fucked up.
It's enough time to really just mess somebody up.
It's more than enough time, man. Like, there's some games where people die in 0.33, bro. Like, so like 2 seconds is brutal. Is absolutely brutal. Like you feel all 2 seconds of it. Like like that's how brutal it is. But so it's basically just gonna like reduce a lot of that. That's it. And like her ultimate CC duration is just crazy. Like her clear speed is nice. So they're just reducing the amount of damage for monsters. So it's to slow down the clear a little bit. Because right now it's just a fast clear going into, and so early clears lead to early ganks or early, interference on the other junglers and stuff like that. So that's basically, they're trying to just nerf it like a little bit. It'll still probably be picked because it's a go-to AP champion.
Yeah, 2 seconds, like you said, is still a pretty good duration, and it's a skill shot, right? So like you time it right, you hit that shot, and like on a pro level, you're probably able to do it more consistently.
I'll be completely honest with you. This is like one of the I know the abilities, okay, but I know that if I don't get hit by Lilia, I won't go to sleep. Okay, that's the instinct that you need to have. So, like basically, she throws out like a ball that goes like really, really far, and you'll get hit with it, and then like she can put you to sleep. Like it's like a lullaby ball or something like that.
Gotcha.
And if it hits like a group of people, and then she goes in with the ultimate, she can like sleep like 4 people. She can do like an AoE sleep. Like it's brutal.
Okay, yeah. So I can see why it's definitely warranted. We'll see how it plays out in Worlds, etc. Moving on into Lissandra.
We can skip her. She's a support champion. She's like one of those
Q damage decreased. Yeah, Q damage decreased. So easy peasy.
Yeah, and as you can see, like hasn't been picked up as like a mid champion at all. Like for Worlds, leading up to Worlds, like it's a mid champion that's not being played, and they're like nerfing her, and it just means bronze baby. Like it's just something that's like affecting like the lower bracket of players. Like the higher majority of players are getting, this is for them. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
I don't want to spend too much time on that one.
Let's move on into Lulu.
Again, same thing. Like I don't want to spend too much time on it. It's just like doesn't really matter for support. And it's a support champion. So like sometimes it's played top lane. If like I'll say, like there's a lot of champions that could, like, if you don't talk to your teammates, like don't fucking grief and play Lulu top. Like you better be like the best fucking Lulu top in the world to be in my game. Like I do not want to see it.
Yeah, but I doubt you're gonna have the best Lulu in the world in your game. No offense to that, but like, yeah, the odds are really low.
Don't pick it. Don't pick it. It's a support champion. There's things that you can do and play it somewhere else, but like,
it's interesting. But here, interesting, and like it seems like the devs are trying to bring more choice into ADCs into the world's meta. And like I highlighted it here. What's that about? And like ADC, if I'm correct, that's not a top lane thing, right?
No, ADC is like a bot lane thing, right? So like this is damage on her passive, and basically when you shield, anytime that she attacks, if she didn't do anything previously, her little butterflies and fairies will do additional attacks to that target while she attacks, right? So some people are like, hey, let me go like on hit in the top lane and I'll be a solo laner with the support champion, right? It could work based on your team comp. It could work. It could be great. You could be awesome, right? But most of the time she's there basically to save a person. Her ultimate basically goes in on Chuck and just basically makes him like go like super huge. And basically gives them like effective health for the duration and stuff like that. So she's really just a shielding speed champion.
Okay, so then why are they somewhat, at least narratively, pushing it into an ADC choice? Like they're trying to give the pros another choice to pick it for ADC. Like, is that reasonable? Are they cooking something here, or are they just like flat out burning it?
I mean, like again, so it's a support champion. If they're saying they want to use this champion to bring more ADCs back into the role, right? It just means that, a good portion of ADCs aren't being picked. And I think Lulu will be the reason why some of these ADCs get picked. That's horseshit. Okay. If it's adding damage, to an ADC, the ADCs that are getting picked are now benefiting from that. So if she gets buffed and she's good enough to be picked, then the champions that are already good enough to be picked that aren't getting nerfed are just going to get an extra damage buff with this champion having a shield and an effective health increase. So like for me, I don't really understand that sense of like, we're trying to get, like, give me context. What ADCs are they trying to bring in? Like, I don't get it.
Yeah, we'll leave that out. And that's a great question for the devs. Give them context to this statement, because it seems a little
maybe Jinx. Are they going to say Jinx because she has her because the passive will just add and Jinx auto attacks like crazy? Then this is like the trifecta of you're going to play J4, Jinx, and Lulu, which also is kind of like makes sense. Like, boom, there you go. Like, that's what it's going to be. New meta.
You heard it here first. Let's move into Malphite. Enough to stick around for? This is an awesome change.
Yeah, it's like an awesome change that people probably are going to just like blow off for the most part. It's just increasing his effective health.
Yeah.
After a certain amount of time, his passive grants him a shield. It's called Granite Shield. It gives him 10% of his maximum HP now.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So like, he's a tank. There's some people, right, who play him like full AP. This is the guy who I was talking about with the Unstoppable Force, by the way. He charges in and he knocks up everybody in an AoE at that location. And so it deals AP damage. Some people go full glass cannon with them, and then other people go like full tank. So the tanks are going to benefit from this. And if they think about it, if they have like 3,000 HP, 10% of that.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So like, that's the thing. It's like maximum HP, not bonus HP, not base HP. It's maximum HP. So that's after all items, all the trees, the talents, whatever you want to call them. I can't even rune pages. Sorry. I played too many games.
That sounds good, man. That definitely sounds good. Let's go into the next guy, which you yelled at me for saying incorrectly before, but liked it. You want me to give it another shot, or do you want to go?
It's Maokai. It's just Maokai. Just think about if you were to say MAO.
I know. I said it more Maokai. But
yeah.
It seems like Maokai got buffs, buffs and nerfs and buffs to do two different moves. So what's going on here?
Doesn't matter.
Okay.
Like everything that they're saying in the thing, like right now he's a really strong jungler because he has like decent engage. Like not decent. Like he's got good engage. He's got good disengage with his ultimate. So his Q right here that they're talking about, right? His Q is basically like a knockback and a knock up for anybody who's close by in a line, right? His E is what I was talking about before. He throws a little plant, basically a sapperling, and basically they'll run at the closest champion. You can outrun them, and then they explode. And then his W, which they don't have here, is he basically becomes untargetable, and he roots a person in place, and it's targeted. So like he just clicks on you, and he just goes untargetable straight to your location, and then he can Q you to knock you up after he roots you. And then his ultimate is a bunch of roots in a straight line, right? That root anybody who gets hit by a root, and basically it's the first person who gets hit by a root in that line. So if you were to think like 6 lanes, right? If I'm in lane 1 and I'm in front and you're behind me, you won't get rooted, but I'll get rooted.
Okay.
You get what I'm saying?
Mostly, but you're kind of losing. I'm not sure how like applicable, like overall, we need to like kind of focus on that. Generally,
this is why he's picked for jungle.
Okay,
right? He's not picked for top lane. He's not picked for support right now. So
it's
these changes don't matter.
He's picked because control. He can control the other person, and and he's getting a damage nerf on both. It seems overall
doesn't matter.
Okay. Let's move on then.
It does. I think it doesn't matter. I think it doesn't matter. It's not going to change why he's getting.
He's still going to be picked, and he's okay.
Yeah.
So the damage decrease for him is still not going to make a difference, and he's still going to get picked as a jungler because of the control, and he's able to make those breakpoints.
For his damage.
Okay.
He's not picked for his damage. That's that's it. That's why it's just doesn't matter. He's still going to play make. He's still going to be picked. And it probably just helps, like, again, that just helps bring other junglers into the limelight where he'll still be strong and other people like J4 will be picked,
Right.
stuff like that.
Let's move into Misfortune, base AD decrease. So a little bit of a nerf.
Yeah, probably bigger than anybody thinks, because just like whenever they increase the base AD on ADCs, it kind of gets crazy.
True. It is like literally in the name, right? So if you decrease the name.
Yeah. So we're decreasing the base AD. It just means, they'll be able to farm, obviously. But basically it's just overall damage nerf throughout the whole entire game. Just like lowering numbers a little bit, which usually just effectively means early game trades are just a little bit worse compared to other people.
Gotcha. Yeah. And the clear and the farm is going to be a little bit slower. All right. Moving into Nasus or Suzy Q. Like you had.
Yeah, Suzy Q is gone.
What was that?
I said Suzy Q is gone. I hit my mic and muted it. Basically, Spirit Fire is what Nasus was using to kind of bully the lane. He deals damage. It's an AoE that he puts onto the ground so he can do it to the minions. And if you're in the minions, you're going to get hit with it. It's going to help push the lane. It's just a bully thing. So basically,
it's a pretty significant decrease though, because even at the top level, 215 down to 170, that's a significant amount.
Yeah, it matters. It does a lot of damage. Okay. And it's because it normally it's just not he's not an AP scaling champion. I mean, he does scale with AP, right? It's stupid to say that, but he doesn't build AP most of the time. Anybody who's I'm going to go AP Nasus, you're a clown. You're doing something funny to just do it. You're trolling and it's cool, whatever. But essentially this just helps with wave management, and it's just going to take him out of the pro light because he's not going to bully anymore. And which is also good because in mid lane, it was two of the oldest champions were fighting each other, and they're very, I don't want to say they're very boring. Nasus is fun to play, but they're just two giant guys just smacking each other, and it's just not a good thing to watch. And it happens in the mid lane recently is where it's been happening. So if they nerf this guy, they get him out of the mid lane, means that the other guy doesn't get picked most likely. So get out of here. It's just a push him out.
All right, let's get him out of here and let's put Rel onto focus. What's going on with Rel?
Let's see. So Rel's getting a nice little nerf, right?
Yeah, movement speed decreased.
Pretty nice overall. I don't really like Rel as a support champion, but she's relatively strong, and it's just just nerfing a little bit of this disengage. That's pretty much it. 40% is a crazy amount of movement speed towards enemies, especially when there's there's other things that increase movement speed towards enemies and ally champions and stuff like that. So that's probably just cleaning up a lot of the numbers. And maybe that might be more of a thing to look out for in the next one. But really, it's just too fast. That's crazy. That's all. That's pretty much it.
Right. Yeah. Let's move into Rumble. Rumble's Q getting decreased, E getting decreased as well. So double damage nerf on Rumble here. What are we looking for? What are we looking at? Why?
This basically just
because quickly.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say quickly, the quotes, Rumble has been crowding out the top lane pool in pro play. So they're looking just to slim it down for top laners. They're looking at rostered picks for this position. And they're just getting him out of there.
Yeah, so as they say, it's pretty much impossible to dodge the flamethrower. It's because the flamethrower is literally just on. Okay. It's another non-targeted move. It adds value. It does damage while you're walking to a person. You don't have to target anything, and you're basically just on top of a person anyway, because he's an auto attack champion. He's got some moves. There's a little bit going into it, but basically I would just say it's probably just for trading, early on. That's pretty much it. Because it's not the most severe. You're losing 10% of AP. That's pretty much it. On the flame spitter. So
yeah, it's just enough to kind of make people second guess picking them up there.
Yeah, it's basically just the early. So like if you're already playing a team that's more about scaling, he'll still be picked. His ultimate's still like great for team fights. So yeah,
pretty straightforward then. Yeah, pretty straightforward in that. Next up, Samira. Q damage increase, getting a bit of a buff on her ultimate. What's up with that?
She's another flashy champion. She has movement. She goes in. It looks nice to watch, like, for viewers to watch. So I'm that's where I would just put it. Just like a better laning phase.
Okay. Yeah, it seems they agree lane strength has been a high priority for picks and pro, and then they're just giving her a little bit more of that power.
Yep, just a little bit, so it's a little bit long-winded for that whole sentence right there, but a paragraph. But it's just to get her in there so she can skirmish a little bit better early on, which is basically like where she should excel. Is probably like the early game, because like one of her moves is just to run a dive at a champion, basically.
Right, so, force the 1v1 early on. Maybe she's gonna be a 1v1ing Shen. What we got going on with Shen?
Viewership. He's a viewership champion.
Passive shield strength has been increased. The buff there.
Yeah. So Shen's whole thing, right, is he's a ninja.
Okay.
Okay. He's got a Red Cross skin. Okay, like an official Red Cross skin. That was money was donated to charity, so he wears Crocs and a nurse's uniform. So in his thing, I told you some of these skins are great. But essentially, like the way Shen works is he's just a ninja. He has an AoE taunt ability when he dashes at people, like a shinobi dash, and anybody who gets caught in that line will get taunted by him. And the big thing for him, basically, besides that aspect of taunting people to attack him and doing his ninja stuff to stop the attacks, is that he can target anybody on his team with his ultimate, regardless of where they are on the map, give them a shield, and then teleport to their location. That's pretty much it. So like if your bot lane is getting dove, right, and they're behind and they're getting dove, and then he's in the top lane, he doesn't have to use his TP, which is a teleport, which is, it doesn't matter, I can go into it, but he doesn't have to use his TP to go there as teleport. He can just use his ultimate, which also gives a shield, which allows them to go basically, counterattack and go on the offensive in those ganks or those fights. As soon as he comes down, he's able to just charge at somebody and, taunt them. So they're able to get value out of it. But that's basically, he's a viewership champion. Like he basically makes some plays like pretty crazy. Like, oh my God, they're about to get dove. No, the shadow comes in. Oh my God, they're no longer cooking. Bah! Right. Like, that's pretty much it. Like
it's like illusion of counterplay, but it's like kind of obvious.
Yep. Okay. Like you have to be worried about it. It's just going to be one of those things that's going to, he'll probably be picked. And it also helps him, like if they nerf like Rumble in the early game trading and stuff like that, and all these other people. So like it's just he's coming back. So that's all.
All right, let's check out another person then right here. Smolder. Base health decrease, Q damage decrease, AP ratio removed, W damage to champions, minions, and monsters decrease. There's a lot of subtext here. Basically big old nerfs for Smolder. What do we want to talk about with this one? Do we want to talk about this one?
Scroll down. Like the health doesn't matter. Base stats and like health doesn't matter. That's like one auto attack, right? Like that's like an auto attack, and if you're losing by like an auto attack, like I don't get better. So like basically like the TLDR for Smolder is cracked because Smolder is a long-term scaling champion, right? Based on like its passive and all this other, like it has stacks and like basically it builds stacks as the games go on. So the game goes on so that it'll actually deal more damage with its stuff. So that's pretty much like what's going on. It's going to be small nerfs, and it's not going to be like anything. Like the 15% of like AD getting removed off the Scorch is probably just going to be there so that they don't have too much like that extra little. That's like item diversity, so they have different build paths. Like probably like that's probably where it's mostly going to change. But I don't think this is going to change anything for Smolder. I think people are still going to pick it. It doesn't change like your game plan when you're talking about going from like one, because like again it's a top down kind of thing, not a bottom up. So you look at like the end game and the end game's like 170, 25 bonus AD. It goes to 165 with 25 bonus AD and 20 AP. Like, it's, who cares? Like, it's at the end of the game. Like, if you're not playing Smolder to play for the end of the game, then like just stop being a pro, go home. Like, it's stupid.
All right, let's move on.
That's it.
That's really it. Okay, let's move on into Varus because we're pushing a lot of time on this. Q&E damage decrease. Another nerf for another damage, double nerf here.
He's a champion that also, like, he does good early game. That's pretty much it. Like, so usually, like, what this means with him, because of all his build paths, it looks like, based on their like little settings that they had, was that they just don't want certain builds to overtake other builds. And recently there's been a lot of we'll say spreadsheeting for him. Like, I've seen a lot of different videos of like full tank Varus versus full damage Varus, who wins? And it's like, it's the tank. Like, the tank kills him in the same amount of time as like the other guy. And it's just like certain, his moves scale. He's got some issues, but again, it's not too important for the most part.
Yeah, it seems like most of it's based on the bonus AD that's getting changed here. Let's move into Vi.
Vi is a viewership champion. Like, has some skill expression, but for the most part, it just goes all in. The Q is a charge. It charges it up, and then you release it. Then you shoot across the distance. And then her ultimate is target a person, and she just goes right at that person. And then knocks them up, does like an up Soryuken, like just Soryukens them like real quick, and then has them stasis for that period of time. So single target CC that deals damage for the most part. So again, early game, stuff like that. So if you look at it, they're just nerfing it a little bit. Yeah, but that's all.
Okay,
it's a strong champion, but it's just for.
Interesting because it's a viewership pick generally, like you said, but the reason why they're decreasing the damage here is to give other fighters more room for worlds. So that's a little bit of interesting of a conflict narrative.
This is to get Jarvan into the game. Okay. Like, Jarvan's like, I think like Jarvan's overpowered right now. Like, after this patch, like, I think people should just be playing more Jarvan jungle. But that's where all the like little changes tend to just shift the Rubik's Cube. Like, that's like kind of how I feel about it. Like, there's so many little working parts, but it's just shifting a lot of stuff. Like, doesn't really take her out of the game.
Gotcha.
At all. Like, if we were to look 145, like 150 to 145, no, it's just early trading. Just ends up being key. And so it's like clear speed, how, like, if you fight another jungler, stuff like that. That's a lot of the balance issues for junglers. Is always going to be with the first 15 minutes.
And let's move into the next champ here. Viego? Am I saying that correctly? Viego, okay. Base AD increase, Q damage to monsters decrease. So it sounds like they're kind of slowing down the creep clear and then increasing just damage.
Yeah, he's a jungler. He's got a game based on him, First, he started off as an item, just to give you a little context, called Blade of the Rune King. That was an item in the game. It's still an item in the game. And then we finally got him as like a champion. And look, the bonus damage to monsters, 20 to 15. Like, it's one more auto attack. It doesn't matter. But guess what? They buffed his auto attack damage, and he's an AD champion. So like a buff everywhere else in the game, right? And then like jungle speed. So like, that way, he'll slow down by a couple seconds, but nothing too crazy.
And that way, it just sounds like they're just placing the power, shifting it from one thing to the other.
Yeah, for the most part, it's nothing too. It's again nothing too crazy, and it's only on the queue. So,
true. Okay, let's move in. I think this is the last hero.
Sure. Viewership champion. He's a viewership champion. Xin Zhao is he's great. I like him. But he's another engaged early game fighter. He has knockups. He has a dash to you and stuff like that. He has good trades early game. And like, what are they saying? Is extremely straightforward champion.
They're saying they're shipping some lower MMR skewed buffs, so they are kind of buffing it in the sense for like bronze, basically.
But So like you basically just change him like so he doesn't fall off at the end game, and like that's pretty considerable. Just like the 16 damage, that's pretty decent. But
Yeah.
again, like the early game got a little bit of a buff. Like rank 2 dealing with getting buffed. You know, it stays the same at like rank 1. So, but you know, depends. Maybe the leveling skill ups will change on like the power spiking depending on move might change, you know, based on this. I don't main Xin Zhao, but like that could, he might level up his Q. I don't know if he levels up his Q right now. Personally, he might level up his E or his W because his W heals. So maybe it just changes which skill gets leveled up first for this. So it might just be the Q gets leveled up first, which is the 3 talent strike, obviously 3 attacks. The third one knocks him up. But you can scroll.
And then actually the last hero, Zeri.
So just passive damage decrease. She's very mobile. So it's one of those situations like, no, just combos with the stuff that I was saying like earlier. Like we have more stationary ADCs getting slight buffs and other zone control junglers coming into the mix, which allow for less stationary champions to do more in the fights. And so if you have a person who moved around a lot and did damage and you're just like nerfing a little bit of their damage, usually just means that like, you know, not going to, that's all. It's just another piece of the not too much matters.
And there's a lot being said here for just that. She seems to be an enabler character, right?
Like, yeah, it's not really like an enabler. It's just one of these frustrating champions that basically like goes through like walls and shit. Like she just has like this stupid ass mobility and also generates a shield on herself. And like, it's frustrating that you dive on the ADC and the ADC is like, sorry, I jumped over this wall without using my flash, which is a 5-minute cooldown. So that's all. Like that's it. Just removes some of the damage on her. And then we have Ziggs is actually the last champion.
A third time I've actually said it, but yeah, passive damage to structures decreased.
This channel, all right. So like this is fucking huge. This is fucking huge. This is the most huge fucking patch notes in this whole entire thing. Okay,
and it's at the end. Why is it nestled on the bottom of all this? I know alphabetical, but come on. Why is it?
Because people probably don't see this as like they see it as like a nerf. But so right now, like Ziggs was by far one of the best ADCs like to play. It used to just be like a mid champion, but when we got the additional AP champions going into the bot lane, right? Basically Ziggs came in. Ziggs has great clear for the wave, right? And the whole point of ADCs is to take turrets. And this passive is fucked up. Okay, it's fucked up. It just deals like they need to nerf the W too. Like they don't nerf the W in this, which I'm a little upset about, but it's dealing extra damage. So look, it cut the damage that it was getting bonus in half.
Yeah,
to turrets. Like he was chunking turrets as a little guy. Like granted, he throws bombs, right? Like lore wise, like I get it, but fuck that, dude. I can't like he literally just takes turrets, and you don't even know his W. His W is that it's a satchel charge that if the turret is at a certain health, once it gets to like it's an execute, bro. It just executes structures. Like it's fucking stupid. And like so he has wave clear, he has turret damage. Right. And so they're nerfing the turret damage a little bit, but not the execute. Right. He just has good value for the game.
Especially for the main goal of the game is to kill the turrets, kill the structures.
Exactly. And there we go. I'm not doing items. Like I'm not doing items, bro.
Yeah, we've been sitting on the champions for quite a while, kind of going through each itemizing.
There is one thing. Scroll all the way up.
All the way up?
All the way up. I think it should be all the way up. It's ready, checked out. That's probably the most important patch note.
All right, give me a second as we do this. In the meantime, if you're still with us, thanks for joining us, watching along. We're currently talking about League of Legends patch notes, the ones we're expecting for Worlds. So this is kind of a big deal. We're doing a deeper dive into the patch notes about this because it's going to set up all the compositions and etc. for the biggest tournament of the year. If you do like what you're watching, make sure to follow us, subscribe, all the good things on the internet. It really helps us out and lets the algorithms know that people should be watching us. Otherwise, we go live every Tuesday here on Twitch, YouTube, etc. 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And if social media is more your vibe, if you prefer us over there, we're on all your favorite platforms at the Esports Meta. All right, quick little call to action there, but ready, check, go. Here we are. What are we talking about on this one, Nick? Why, in coordination with Ziggs or the items?
Not even like it's not about Ziggs or the items itself, right? Okay. Basically, like this is for Q dodge and ready check penalties. All right, so there's 3 routes on this one, right? When you get in, before you get into a game, you have to hit accept. All right. Basically, it's curbing the amount of time that it takes to put people into like an actual champion select. All right. That's the first thing. If you miss your queue, you're gonna get penalized for it. So like if you're playing League of Legends and you're playing the game, make sure that you're here for the ready queue because it shouldn't take more than a minute or 2. Okay. Right. That's the first thing. The other way that this is impacting people, right, is the queue dodgers, right? And so these people, the way that it works is they'll get into a game, right? And let's say they like before they used to like look you up, and if they don't like you, like your win rate or the champions that you like to play, they'll just dodge. And what happens is they'll take like a small LP loss, which is like their points, right? And then they'll just re-queue, right? And so they'll just dodge you as a player, right? Which puts everybody else back in the queue and inconveniences everybody else. The penalty wasn't harsh enough for these people. Excuse me. So they're increasing the penalty for those guys. Like this is all like part of the same problem of just not being able to start the games fast enough because of the people who are doing this maliciously. The people who are negatively impacted on this are whenever you come across a person who's toxic, right? Like if you have a person that you're just, like, even if you mute them, but then they like, if you're last pick and they just go like, and you're usually what happens is you're able to signal, I'm going to play this champion, right? And you pick the champion, you show that you're going to pick this champion before you actually comes to your pick. Somebody could just say, hey, F you, buddy. I'm playing Garen now. You're not playing Garen. And they could just take your champion, right? People will dodge because of that. And it's rough. That does happen. I would say probably get over that in that aspect.
Yeah. If anything, that's just kind of catering to one tricks. I mean, with a game of like 160 champions, you should be playing more than just one.
True, but some people do it maliciously is my point, right? Like some people will really maliciously target you in the matchmaking, or they'll ban out your champion instead of picking it. You want to play that champion? Sorry, I used my one ban in order to ban the champion that you wanted to play. I don't care. I don't like playing against them. So it negatively impacts those people who have already had a bad experience and left that queue to get away from those people that were giving them a bad experience. So those are like the 3 opportunities where this affects people. But for the most part, it's really just going to penalize the people who are repeated offenders. And those are at higher ranks, probably like most of the time. Like if they catch,
the player pool, the player pool a lot better up there anyway, too. Okay. That makes sense. This is like an adjustment to change player behavior and penalize bad player behavior a bit more.
Correct. Okay. And that's it. Like it's a good change overall. It's nice.
All right. I think that kind of wraps up all the League of Legends patch notes we wanted to go over, what we're expecting for the Worlds tournament, what we're seeing here. Any final thoughts, meta-wise, you're expecting to see, Nick, for Worlds with these notes?
No, not meta-wise. Like I'm not really sure how they're going to change the game because we have 14.9 and then 15.0 is the pre-patch. So, and that comes at like after Worlds, like usually like November. So we have 2 pretty big patches that are coming up. So, you never know how this game's going to change.
True. I know we were talking about this isn't the final one, but this was the foundational level of patch notes, small adjustments to kind of start inching us to a direction. And maybe they're just trying to see how the competition goes, see if they can start shifting things up because maybe they want less lane swapping and they can do that with their patch notes. But we'll see how it goes. We maybe have 2 more of these patch notes to kind of big adjustments for Worlds coming up. And so stay tuned, see what's going on with that. Okay. And that way, let's move into our next topic. Rocket League World Championship just occurred this past weekend, and oh boy, was it exciting. A ton of great games. This was the ultimate tournament for Rocket League this year, the 2024 season, and teams had to show up and show out to win that prize money, and we're going to be going over what happened just now. Nick, you ready for some Rocket League?
Yeah, let's go. Let's do it.
All right. So last week we were priming you. We ended up getting delayed in our stream. Normally it would have been on Tuesday, but we streamed on Friday. So we got to see some of the tournament live while we were recording this last week, the primer, etc. But this week we get to do a little bit of a retrospect, a recap, a breakdown, and we're going to go over the format, the winners, the losers, the prize pools, and our takeaways from it. So ultimately too, this was the biggest tournament for Rocket League last year, actually this year, this whole past year, 2024. The information was pretty straightforward. Playing for $1.1 million. The tournament was happening in Fort Worth, Texas. And they had about 8 teams, I think, or 12 teams. Here are the qualified 16 teams, top 16 teams from the world coming through. We're going to go over the list there. And this is just your basic sort of expectation here, but to more specific how the format looked, it started with a Swiss stage. Everybody played each other to determine records, best of 5, see power rankings, etc., determine the bracket. Then they had a tiebreaker for any of those teams that were looking pretty close, little solid here and there, and then playoffs in the weekend, leading it to championship game days on Sunday. Best of 7 for those championship games. And the top playoff sort of situation, just to make sure there was less variance, because Rocket League can be a very momentum-based game. Generally, that's the format for you, how they played it out. It ultimately became a very competitive tournament, and we're going to roll down into our prize pool and winners real quick. So a quick first place congratulations to Team BDS taking $300 grand for first. G2 Stride, second place, $150,000. Couldn't quite make it, but still walking away with a bag. K-Corp Team Falcons, third and fourth place, $99,000. Nick, is that a little bit of an insult that it's not even $100,000, that it's $99,000?
Yeah, it's pretty trash for that. Like that 1,000, like that's pretty rough. But you know, the prize pool is like overall like not too bad. Right, it's over $1 million, but like they have so many tournaments throughout the year that are so valuable. So like, right, for them, it's not too crazy for the prize pool to actually be a lot, like not a lot lower, but a little bit lower, just because they have so many throughout the year.
Yeah, and this was the biggest tournament for them in the year, right? Like we just came out of EWC Esports World Cup. They had Rocket League there. There's a decent prize pool there, but this is like Rocket League's World Championship. This is the marquee event for this esport. And this is a really solid $300,000 to win this. I think BDS won EWC, and then here they are taking first place on
it's all figured out, man.
I don't know about that with Rocket League, but let's roll down into our brackets and participants here. First, just going over the teams that played. Gentle Mates, they had previously won a major earlier this year. We're talking about Team BDS, Team Vitality, Carmine Corp, G2 Stride, Genji Mobile, Space Station Gaming, OG. Moving forward, More Power, Quick Trip Pioneers, Furia Esports, Team Secret, Team Falcons, Oxygen Esports, Gaming Gladiators, and Limitless. That was all 16 of our competitors that made it to this World Championship. They had the invites. They performed earlier this year, and had to come to this tournament to show out and make that money. Moving down, going into the overall records for the group stages. We were talking about this last week because we did get to see some of the games, and we saw how starkly of a difference it was from the top half to the bottom half. But in those middle sections, we did see a lot of competitive records. G2 Stride at the top here going 3-0, right? Winning 9-2 of the games and having a +7 goal differential. But when you get down to Space Station Gaming, number 8, going 3-2, winning 9 and 8 of games and only a 1 goal difference, like it really cut it close. It really made the difference. And on the losing end of that, potentially, you've got a Team Vitality only going 2-3 in their games, playing 5 games, whereas some of them were only playing 3 games, going 11-11 in their record, not quite breaking out and just being even on the overall goal differential, you know, winning some, losing others, and just not being able to like make it matter. So like pretty big difference from the top here all the way down into the bottom here. 0-3 on Gaming Gladiators, like huge difference naturally, of course. But that middle section, super duper competitive, super duper close, really bringing games to the farthest it could go. You know, maybe some sweeps, reverse sweeps in that way. Literally 11-11. That's heartbreaking, man.
Yeah, I mean, dude, like, look at Carmine Corp though. They beat everyone. Like, they beat so many people. Scroll up, like, and then they didn't face. Like, they only lost to Furia Esports. They didn't even face Team Falcons.
They no, you're right. You're right. They lost.
That's
to
a
Furia.
shame, dude.
Well, let's see how they do. Let's go down to the brackets because, you know, this is just the first part of that. And it was a bit of a tie. Carmine Corp was in 4th place with the same record with Furia. So, like, they had a bit of a tiebreaker to see who was in 3rd and 4th overall. So, a little bit extra there. Let's go. We're going to pass by all the rounds. And we're going to bring us down into, there's a tiebreaker. And you can see Carmine Corp over Furia. And then Furia losing to Team BDS. So right now we're setting the stage at Team BDS in the 4th, 5th tied seed, going back up to the bracket real quick. Scrolling up. You know, they were seeded 5th place out of the Swiss. 3-1, 10-6 overall, +4 differential, losing only to Team Falcons here, but beating Genji and you know, a bunch of other teams here. Then getting down into the tiebreaker round. Where it is again. There we are. Having to face Furia after Furia just lost to Carmine Corp, K Corp. You know, real heartbreaking slide for Furia, like just getting slid down and going from a potential 3rd place down into a 5th place. Team BDS getting placed there, and then we move into the brackets. Anything to note there for you, Nick, or should we just move into what we see on the bracket round?
Down, look, G2 fought Carmine Corp. It's not listed up there.
Well, the first up there, that was Swiss stage. That was just Swiss stage. And then here we're getting to playoffs. This is the last 2 days of games, last day of games. This is really where it mattered. You had to play to get in here, and then from here, you're trying to win it all. All right. So we have a Team BDS final score over G2, 4-2. Team BDS ranked 5th in the Swiss stage, pushing forward over Furia, and then making it all the way to finals and taking home 1st place. Let's take a look at this journey here through the bracket real quick. Furia over Space Station Gaming, you know, having a bit of fire coming out of that round, facing G2 and losing to G2. And G2 end up going forward all the way to 2nd place against Team BDS, right? And then on the other end here, Team BDS getting the 1st round bye, but, you know, because of that win over Furia, we might have been the difference maker, might have been the game breaker here, beating G2 off the bat here. Team Falcons and Carmine Corp playing. Carmine Corp handing it to Team Falcons 4-1, but not really able to do much with that until, you know, the grand final there. You know, BDS going forward, taking 1st place. Pretty close matches here. The scorelines all, you know, 4-2, 4-3. I think the one that stands out is that Team Falcons. They got a whooping on from K Corp, and maybe it was just a bad game. Maybe they got a little unlucky in that upper bracket, or maybe it was strategy. They wanted to go down to the bottom round, the lower bracket, and, you know, fly like a phoenix to rise from the ashes.
Could you imagine, man? If they were just like, let's go into the losers bracket real quick.
Right,
have
dude.
some fun.
Like, strategy on that is wild. If that was the case, where the coaches are like, yeah, let's just, you know, throw this game. More than likely, they didn't. Here they only took 1 game on DFH Stadium. Everything else, you know, pretty decisively the other way. The closest game, Forbidden Temple, went to OT and was won by Carmine Corp 4-3. Utopia Coliseum won 5-4 by Carmine Corp in OT as well. So like pretty close games, but like, otherwise it was K Corp's map showing. Like they had the poise and position, it seems like, from the get, and then just didn't really give it up.
You just went full robot on me.
All right, sorry about that. Well, K Corp really just like making the show here over Falcons, took the advantage, held on to it, and just brought it. And then Team Falcons lower bracket, just knocking some doors down until BDS took them out. So again, congratulations to Team BDS, first place winners. Nick, as far as the overall competition here goes, how did you get a chance to watch the final day a bit more? I know we were talking about it on a Friday. What were your thoughts about this, generally speaking?
I watched the finals match, dude. Like, this game is nuts, man. This is like, I swear to God, like this is what it feels like. If people were to play this in real life, it would just be people in jetpacks. Like, it's almost like Quidditch. Like, with how crazy this game is, like when I watch it, like it's just nuts, bro. Like every time I'm looking at them, like, yeah, that did just happen. That was kind of crazy. Don't like, oh, they're replaying it. This is insane. I don't even know how they even did that or how this game even works half the time. It makes me feel like I don't even know what cars are.
I think your point that this game is the closest. This game is the closest to Quidditch as possible. I think that's the best assessment for it with it. I really do enjoy the team strategy for, a lot of times the mechanics can be a little bit high end, a little hard to follow what they're doing because it's so quick, so fast paced. They're able to make the flip resets happen. They're managing the boosts like crazy. They're just flying around the screen with cars, but really it's like high level math. They're five-heading it with these setups, the hits on the, the placements and strategy for their teams, the tactics that way. Like, that's just insane. Like, they're able to, such a small adjustments, the little touches that make it, and it's so beautiful to watch as a game. And even as like a low level player, you're able to appreciate it and not understand what's going on and just go, wow, these guys, what are they doing?
Agreed. 100% agreed. It appears that my connection is steadily declining.
All right. We're getting sabotaged by the internet here, but we're walking back. I think that kind of wraps up for this
just
year.
My wife, probably.
Just kind of watching, this wraps up our world covered for Rocket League here. A little bit smaller of a budget because generally speaking, the games were insane. Go back, watch the VODs. They're wonderful games to see. We're seeing some highlights right now of the team play, the exciting moments. Right here, it's just G2 and Furia. We talked a lot about Furia, how they were so close on the edge of greatness potentially with a first place sliding down 2 spots after the switch stage against the team that eventually goes on to win it. It could have been them by placements. They get a little bit of a harder gauntlet, but you can see here they're making moves. The team play is coordinated. This game is insane. It's so much fun to watch. The teamwork happening. They're just all flying, man. And like, that's like a simple thing to go, but you've got these cars there coming in, making those plays, securing the goals, getting those goal celebrations. It's a beautiful thing. It's a wonderful game. Definitely check this out because it's just, there's nothing like it, man. There's absolutely nothing like it. All right. I think that kind of wraps us up for our coverage on Rocket League World Championship 2024. Final takeaways or anything to add, Nick?
No, man. This game's going to turn into Beyblades on Rocket League 2. Like, I'm not even joking. Like, it's going to turn, it might even turn into Twisted Metal Soccer, bro. Like, I think it's going to be, I can't wait, actually. Give me a trailer for Rocket League 2, even though we got Rocket League 1 just popping off.
Well, Rocket League is a spiritual successor to another game that's been around for a while. So that might explain the high skill ceiling for mechanics and physics of this game and the development. But, I do feel like this is esport is one to watch, continue watching. It's already massive. It's played across the world. Its prize pools and support are insane, incredible. It's being played at the collegiate level as well as the professional level. I'm sure we're going to see this at the international level of the Esports Olympics. We're going to see it again at Esports World Cup. And we're going to just see more people, I bet, get involved in watching this because above any other esport, this is one of the simplest to get into. Soccer ball. Hit ball into goal, win. And you're doing it with cars, and the cars have jetpacks, so they fly. Man, easy concepts. Viewership's just going to go up and up. This game is brilliant, and I can't wait to see more.
Yeah, I want one of the cars to get a skin that's just like Ronaldo's face.
Just like a giant bobblehead of Ronaldo, like running around.
Probably a robot.
That'd be brilliant, man. That'd be absolutely gold. All right. So that wraps us up there. Nick, if you have it in you, I did want to go over Overwatch 2 mid-season patch notes. We want to speed run this with me real quick, or do you think we should do this off stream?
Yeah, we could speed run it. We could probably speed run it real quick.
All right, let's speed run this real quick. Today, Overwatch 2 had their mid-season patch notes for Season 12. This patch notes is a big deal because it's adjusting some of the big complaints we've seen by players, as well as this patch notes is setting up an expected meta for Stage 4 OWCS, and really the one that's going to make or break how the tournament's going to play and how some teams perform during that, right? So let's jump into what we saw today and kind of speed run. Overall, we've got new patch notes. World of Warcraft skins are now available. Roll queue mystery heroes changes being added to unrank. Deathmatch being moved to unrank out of the arcade or into arcade, etc. So not really important, but kind of changes. Competitive drives, limited time event that's going to take place at the end of the season, and it's going to just incentivize players to play at the end. Get a little skins, get a little knickknacks and digital content for free for playing the game to try to like make sure that end of season doesn't feel as wonky. We're going to go into the specifics later on, but we got to skip ahead and move into something else. The general updates and the hero patch notes specifically. First and foremost, general armor flat reduction has been decreased from 10 to 7. We talked about this when we first did Season 12 patch notes. Armor played a huge part in everything for this season. Into the tank buffs, they've basically buffed it from 5 to 10 initially, and here they are bringing it down to 7. So this is going to change and tune the survivability of every hero with armor, and predominantly that means it's going to change and tune the survivability of tanks a little bit more. Bring it down to 7, I think, is a fair kind of point. Let me move the screen because I'm just realizing now. There we go, full view now. Dev comment, the recent increase to armor's effectiveness improved the survivability of armored heroes more than they liked it. So they're turning it down to a middle ground value. Any thoughts on this one, Nick, or, pretty straightforward? Because I think this is a win. I think this is going to be A-okay.
Yeah, I think the overall reduction on the armor is good. I'm not sure about the next part, but the armor is great. The armor flat reduction is fine. Like, they were probably a little too heavy-handed by doubling the actual reduction. Like, that's kind of silly. And like, let's double it first.
Well, it was a survivability issue with tanks. Tanks would feel like they blow up in a second as soon as people looked at you, which happened a bunch. So this patch was about changing that perception. I can see why they maybe overdone it, but we can see then the counter swing on that was that it made D.Va a nightmare. Absolute menace. Half the HP is armor and like so much reduction. So this should help nerf her just straight up. But we'll see how it impacts some of the other tanks and the survivability, etc. Now let's move into the tank roll. The tank roll passive knockback resistance has been reduced from 40 to 25. The comment is this knockback resistance value has changed a few times. With Juno entering, they're bringing more sources of speed for rushdown teams. We'd like to make tanks more susceptible to displacement. So buffing, it's an indirect buff to like a Lucio, maybe a Venture, couldn't remember her name for a second, and like D.Va boosters, etc. Going to move forward. And Nick, actually, real quick, you said you didn't necessarily agree with this one. What's your thoughts on that real quick?
Just from a flavor and play standpoint, like I think the sentiment of like, I want to be able to knock around the tank is there's only one, right? Like, let's say like the other person's like Winston, but you really want Winston to be juggling a tank? Like, really? Like you want the monkey to just juggle a tank? That's weird. So like, I think tanks should be like a little bit more immovable. Like they move on their own accord, they die on their own accord, like, you know, but.
And that's kind of a good point with the Winston thing, but I could see how like a Winston is a little bit more oppressive with dive when like a main counter, a good counter to Winston dive is you coach gun him out, which isn't a boop. I guess it is. Or like you, Brig whip shot them out. So like reducing that a little bit or enough was a good thing for that counterplay. But yeah, like, will this make a difference in that? It's a good question to ask.
I mean, doesn't this just make more sense that it's really it's really negative, like doubly as negative to champions that aren't movable, right? Like Roadhog, Reinhardt, like they're just going to be knocked around because they really only walk everywhere, right? Yeah. So like that's what I mean. It seems a little ridiculous, and maybe just change, certain champions instead of changing all tanks with a broad stroke.
That's a real. Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, I mean, like, my point being is that like changing individual tanks differently probably makes more sense, because if D.Va's the ise when it comes to like increasing armor, because half of her health is armor, then maybe change fucking D.Va, bro. Like maybe D.Va's kid's the issue. Like it's pretty stupid to say, well, Reinhardt's going to get impacted by this because D.Va's doing some crack shit. Like that's stupid. And I always bring Reinhardt into it because he's like the baseline of a tank, right? He's a shield. He moves slowly, and except for his like one little charge that if you hit it, you probably inted, right? Like so, like it's so that's really like my point. It doesn't really make any sense. Like give context instead of saying like all tanks should have this happen to them.
Right,
and that's been a specific scenario.
That's been a big criticism of it, where like a passive is something that impacts everything, where it's more of a specific hero kit issue on stuff. And for a lot of the time, you have Junkrat and Lucio that are mainly doing boops, and then Brig gets, added. So then you have more boops. You have Ashe get booped kind of thing. Like it doesn't really, it impacts them, but it doesn't impact them. And it's like weird to do a blanket thing when it just comes from a handful of heroes. It just impacts a handful. So yeah, fair criticism, something that, really should be looked at and has been kind of repeated over and over again. And it's part of the development, like philosophy that just keeps getting shown, and they just don't really comment on it. But either way, let's move into the specific heroes. Speaking of D.Va kind of being a menace and changes specifically to D.Va, we're finally getting some changes, and it overall looks like a nerf directly. Mech armor health reduced, and then base health increased. So they're shifting from armor to white HP. Dev comments there's been a lot of community feedback surrounding D.Va. On average, she hasn't been overperforming, but she's quite difficult to take down. So we're shifting some of her armor. The overperformance thing is like a miscued idea too, a philosophy, because if she's performing at 50%, if everybody's picking her in all the games, one of us is going to win, one of us is going to lose. That's 50-50. So if her pick rate is crazy high and her win rate is like still 50-50, that's still a problem. And that's a criticism they have of like that implied philosophy they're showing in that comment. But generally speaking, it's great that they're responding to player feedback sentiment, that she's a pain in the ass to kill, that she's just inting into backlines and able to just kill things and then walk out. No problem with all 5 people like, trying to peel on it. So this change, I think overall good. I think very few people would disagree with that one. And any thoughts on yours, Nick, or we should move on to Orisa?
Yeah, man. Like every time it's like the kit's the issue. Like diving into a backline and killing everybody, or staying alive for too long when diving into the backline. Is that the intent of the class? And I mean, not the class, but the hero in general, right?
Yeah.
Home classes.
It is.
Like, is that what it's supposed to do? Then it's working perfectly fine. And maybe you should just break counterplay because your rock, paper, scissors just isn't fucking working, man. It's so stupid sometimes when it comes to these patch notes.
But it is because it was designed for Overwatch 1, where you had 2 tanks. So you needed a second tank. She was the coverage tank and then the bruiser tank. She'd hold flanks. She'd peel for your backline and for your team, and like just for somebody who's making a play. And then she'd also then like rush down somebody or push down somebody as like a bruiser sort of stuff, right? So it worked perfectly fine, and it was fair and adjustable in Overwatch 1. But in that same way, she was constantly played. I think she was one of the most played heroes in Overwatch 1 tournament-wise, whereas 2 was constantly in the meta. She was always your second tank, etc. So like her going to a single tank Overwatch 2 solo tank style, it's a problem because she either doesn't do enough or she does too much. So it's a kid issue. Sorry, go ahead. I was just going to say she's a kid issue, but it was done by design, but it was done by design in a different format.
Do you think it's mostly due to the fact that defense matrix is fucking broken?
Absolutely.
And needs to be removed from the game because it's fucking cracked. It probably shouldn't be in the game because you can't balance it.
One of the most ridiculous things that I heard said about defense matrix. Okay, if I'm Reinhardt, I hold up my shield. The shield has 2,000 health. Nick, how much damage could that eat? 2,000, right? Simple question. Not trying to get you on that.
I'm with you.
Maybe 2,100 if that last damage, explosion does more than that. Okay, whatever, right? If I hold matrix for 3 seconds, how much damage can that eat? What's the maximum damage it could?
There is no max because its effect is to negate everything that touches it for 3 seconds.
Exactly.
Yeah, the kit's the problem. It's not their philosophy. It's not the armor. It's that the kit is the problem, and probably wouldn't be too crazy if it wasn't just a stop everybody, stop hitting me, a timeout button on the channel. I can clearly see as a crappy Overwatch player that the kit is the issue, not the armor values on the game. But
the armor value definitely made it a little trickier because she wasn't getting punished well.
I got a question for you.
But real quick, I would like to suggest and, put it out there. You're right. The matrix is the issue. And maybe you give matrix an overheat, not by a time duration. Like you keep the time duration aspect, but like the more it absorbs, it overheats and like it stalls out. So you you can't use it, or like gives you a warning. Like maybe that might be a mechanic to bring it to her to then make it more on page.
Like my overall question.
But yeah, go ahead.
For D.Va is like, and this is like more like lore based, I guess, and everything like that. Why she got armor in the first place? Because she's in a mech. How come Torbjorn's like little turret dies like super easily? And that's it. Like there's no vibranium in that fucking suit. Like why she got so much armor in the first place to begin with? Because she's like a tank. Just give her effective health. Just make her have a big health pool, and like forget about the armor.
I think they've tried that. I think they've tried that, but the armor is still a great tool in that sort of way. And I do believe Torb's turret has had armor in the past, and then it's just kind of like a weird. Torb's another like weird kit designed for a different philosophy, like a PvE game philosophy. It hasn't really been able to make that shift over, but just to kind of like quickly give you my take or my push on that opinion there. And like, yeah, maybe the solution is a better effective health pool for a D.Va, but you run into that same problem with like a Roadhog. You just have 1 million health and you're just a nightmare to go against. You're frustrating to play. You're frustrating to play against. But yeah, move on to Orisa.
Go for it.
All right, let's do it. All right, Orisa, movement speed penalty reduced from 20 to 10% on her Fortify. I don't know. This feels like a nothing burger. The little power creep. They're just trying to do something. But let's see what the dev comment says. We still don't want Orisa to easily chase down enemies while fortified, since there's not much you can do to fight back. So while we're not removing the movement speed penalty entirely, we are lowering it to a point where it felt much better for Orisa to use. Why? There's no reason for this. This is absolutely... They're maybe just trying to get a new tank into the play and they're just giving her nothing or something. Like this is exactly what we were saying before about League, where it's like, it's not a problem until it's a problem. They're making her a problem.
Yeah. There's why touch that? I don't know.
Yeah. All right, let's move on into Roadhog, because that one's just going to make me mad, make a lot of people mad. Roadhog, take a breather. Resource regeneration rate increased from 8 to 10. Again, why? This is a revision to previous resource regeneration rate, the devs say. There were several adjustments to reduce the power of visibility, but they may not have been necessary as Roadhog has been underperforming for some time now. Again, man, and like this kind of goes into the kit thing. Like the kit's the problem. It's not the duration of breather that's a problem, the resource of it. It's his kit, and it's how frustrating it feels to play with it and frustrating to play against it. It doesn't feel good when he's on your team. It doesn't feel good when he's on the enemy team.
Sorry, I'm like I'm breaking in and out real quick. But
yeah, what are you thinking, man? What are you thinking?
From an outside perspective, it all seems like subject of like multiple different kit issues just in general. Roadhog himself is like an unarmored target, right?
Okay.
Like maybe the situation just becomes maybe your DPS need to be a little bit better. Like you pocket your tanks into like armored, unarmored, and like into different categories, and then your DPS or what need to like, I don't know, but like it seems like maybe he should die to snipers, like people who don't like, he's an unarmored target, and so maybe he should just take more damage, and that way you switch into your DPS just switches. Instead of being frustrated that Roadhog doesn't die, you have to switch your team up in order to deal with the Roadhog.
Right, like
that's like my perspective. Like I think.
Right, the idea philosophically is that you break the tanks into or characters into raw health, armored health, and shield health, which is kind of what we have now. But then that raw health is, I guess, weak against longer range stuff. Like a sniper shot, a Hanzo arrow, even Ash in that like longer mid. But like if you get close to him, like that's the thing that feels weird. And maybe that's got to be changed where like swapping, but that feels like an overall game philosophy difference where they would have to change the rock, paper, scissors of health and then how effective, almost like Pokemon where it's like fire is good against grass, grass is good against water, water is good against fire. But that might just incentivize counter picking and doesn't really change Roadhog because, like, sure, he doesn't get blown up, but like you almost want to get close to him to blow him up. But he's really strong when you get close to him, so you don't want to get close to him. So then you just go long range. Like that's a good question and I think a good insight, but I'm not sure how the application would work out, especially with the general philosophy of the game devs, etc.
I mean, the general philosophy that my understanding is that it is a rock, paper, scissors, even if you like inherently don't realize you're doing a rock, paper, scissors. But like when you die on the back and you need to switch in order to get to like the point fast, you switch to Lucio so that you can get the movement speed and stuff like that. Like those are rock, paper, scissors choices, like in the moment. Like that is the philosophy of this game, is making the rock, paper, scissors choice in the moment. So like, I think that would probably be a bit easier way to like balance their game and, whatever. But like,
yeah, I know. I just like the one pushback I'd have on that is like, you don't want too hard of a counter because you'd still want them, like you still want a soft rock, paper, scissor in that way, like a somewhat soft rock, paper, scissor. So, and like, this is an area where like philosophically they could change it, adjust it, and maybe make some impact, positive impact. But like, I'm not sure how the implementation would look, what they would do, etc. around it. Because then you'd have to change the effective health of others. Sigma is another like mid-range thing with shield though. And like talking about Sigma has shield health. Maybe that also makes sense. Do you want to rush down Sigma? Because currently he's weak when you get close into their face, but he's got a little bite with the rock accretion. Or do you want to long poke him, which is he's strong against too, because he has the shield that he can just like block off damage for, right? It's an interesting sort of question overall, and an interesting idea to maybe play with and maybe talk about. All right, let's move into Sigma and what changes happened here. Hyperspheres impact damage has been reduced from 25 to 15. Explosion damage increased from 30 to 40. So switching 10 damage from the direct impact and more into the AoE effect, probably just rewarding a little bit more of the bounce plays or the overshield shots. And then no longer deals damage to self on this one. Dev comments here, shift damage to hyperspheres directly impact the explosion component to improve the effectiveness of air burst when playing at max range and trying to threaten tightly grouped. Okay, so they're just trying to give a little bit more of a threat to grouping up against him and a little bit more range stuff. I don't think there's really much to talk about that. He's not really going to change much. I think he's just going to just be a little bit more effective in against brawls, etc. All right, next up is Bastion. Configuration assault spread reduced from 2.2 to 2. Small difference, but makes a huge difference. Just basically tighten up that big, massive burst of damage. And then the artillery, ultimate cost is being reduced by 12%. So they're getting him his ult a little bit quicker. Dev comment, spread reduction is intended to improve Salt Mode's range against smaller targets while not changing how much against good tank heroes and their larger size, etc. All right, pretty straightforward. They just want to make it easier to shoot not big guys. Moving into casts, flashbang hinder duration has been reduced. So the time you can't use movement abilities has been brought down 0.3 seconds. Very small, but probably still a meaningful change. And then explosion damage increased. Oh my, rip tracers. Explosion damage up to 75 from 45. Ultimate cost is also reduced by 10%. So they're giving them this ult a little bit sooner. Dev comment, as crowd control can be a significant source of frustration for players, they're reducing that. Since now there's less time to follow up, they're doing a little bit more damage so that you have to hit the shot and just that. Tracers are going to feel it the most. What's that?
He's being rewarded for being good. Like that's basically like, but like excessively, it kind of seems it's almost double the amount of damage on the thing. So like if you were already good with your combo as Cass, you just get your ultimate faster and you get to kill people easier. Like it's like, that sounds so stupid. So like a lot of this is like bronze baby patch.
Well, this definitely, like. This is bronze. It feels bronze baby, but more or less it feels specifically to player sentiment. They want to make it feel better to people. And like, I don't really hear a lot of people complain about Cassidy. Cassidy's got his spot now. I think he's in a great position. I really feel like this is unnecessary because what I think the secret thing that it's actually doing, maybe a change for the sake of a changed place. But like we said, RIP Tracer. This is just going to have Tracers be more fearful and less pushing, especially when the cast is on the enemy team. All right, moving into Hanzo. A lot of words here. Let's see what they got to say. Normal arrows are no longer affected by global projectile size increase. So they're bringing them smaller, I think. What's that mean? I'm not entirely sure what that means. You're going to have to take a look at some of the videos, some of the car queue specific breakdowns on what that does. Maximum damage is getting increased. So we're going to get some headshots again. But like, I'm not sure if I like this because it's, spam the choke again. But, maybe with the larger health pools, the squishier characters are really just, the 225s are worried about. Then time to fully increase has been increased. What does that matter? You're just going to shoot an arrow slower down the thing. Not a big deal. So let's see what the dev comments are before we start roasting this one. This restores Hanzo's one-hit headshot kill against 250 health targets, like I said, though it will require more accuracy. Okay, they are confirming it's a smaller projectile. More accuracy is not going to matter because you're just going to spam a choke and that unlucky, and that's the thing that felt really bad, why they changed a lot of projectile sizes to begin with, especially for lower ranks, etc. It's just, and that, but okay, maybe he's just a spam area zone. Moving on. It's now slower to charge in the slower projectile to reduce the frequency of projectiles being thrown out. After trying the recent iterations of Hanzo post Season 9, we feel that one-shot capacity is too essential to the core gameplay feel of these sniper heroes. Okay, kind of fair. A lot of frustration on that. When they're limiting the smaller range of heroes that could be 225, added some texture, but it wasn't satisfying enough. Ultimately. So they're bumping it up to the 225 hero things. I don't know, man. I don't think this is going to be good because I feel like the skillless Hanzo play is going to be rewarded again, where you're just spamming a corner at head level and somebody's going to walk around at an unfortunate time that you have no idea. Yeah.
I'll tell you right now that the stuff like this, when they bring back the one shot for Hanzo, is specifically because the skin sales for Hanzo have had a dip over the last 6 months. I'm not even joking. I swear to God.
Like, I would like to see some data on that, but I believe it anecdotally. But I'd love to see some data.
You see Hanzo's in your game still, right? But even when Hanzo isn't even like there's Hanzo mains in this game, right? And then there's people who play the game and play what's like good and stuff like that. Like this is specifically targeted at the whiny community who said I have to hit 2 shots now instead of 1. Like one-shotting anybody in this fucking game is stupid. I'll tell you right now, like it's a futuristic fucking game with monkeys who turn into rage monsters and can talk. it's kind of stupid that there's one shots in the game. That's not a good play. Like, there's no counters. Like, oh, you got shot. Be better at not getting hit next time. Right. That's the counterplay to it, right? So this is specifically a bronze baby thing because a good portion of the community is not a high level, right? And this like negatively impacts high level play, whereas it does not negatively impact like low level play. It just increases like them just killing people.
Well, in that way too, I think it kind of lowers the skill floor for that cheese part of it, you know, where it's like anybody can sit there on King's Row and just spam that first gate, that first wall for that corner. And like, okay, I'm just going. And like, boom, I'm picked immediately, you know, like it's just, oh, I just moved at the wrong time. Like I'm supposed to know he was, you know, like there's no counterplay. There's no knowledge signal. And it's like that one shot part of it was frustrating. And it's like, oh yeah, you just got to go, you know, play differently,
you shouldn't
not
be able
get
to
hit.
shot with that. Like if you're not specifically like chronically aiming all the time, right? Like if you're not actively aiming, you shouldn't be rewarded with a one shot. That's just that's end of story in the game. Like you should not be rewarded. Oh shit, I got a one shot. get screwed. We're moving. Like we move on up. Like that's not good.
Yeah, I'd almost rather see Hanzo go the direction of like not able to headshot, but does more body damage, and then it's like a 2 body hit or maybe 3 body hit, right? Like try that out, see how that plays, because they didn't really do that this past one and it didn't work. Like speed up the arrow, speed up the fire rate, you know, do more damage or something like in body shot. So at least I get hit, I can react. Oh, he's spamming this choke. I can move kind of thing.
Yeah.
You know, another idea that I did see that I liked was somebody suggested giving him another ability, maybe on the reload button where you put a weighted tip, right? Like so that it does more damage, but it'd be just that one shot. And, you know, that would warrant a headshot ability to one-shot somebody, but like it had to be accurate. Because right now, you literally just fire everything. You storm arrow, you fire everything down to choke, and you just kind of spam head level on that. And it doesn't feel skilled. It doesn't feel good. It feels frustrating to play against. I know Hanzo players, and I've done this before, where it's like, oh, I got that dink from across the map, get wrecked kind of moment. And like you feel good about yourself, but like I'm the first to admit, it's like, okay, what did I do? It's like, oh, I got a noob who didn't know I was playing the game.
Triple kill with rocket launcher, bro. I did so well in that.
I'm so good at this.
My initial thoughts is to give him a passive where the first hit that he hits you with slows your movement speed, so it makes it easier to hit the headshot afterwards. But you're still like, so you're rewarded on being good in general, and you're not like, and you're rewarded for just hitting a shot in general. All right, we hit him with it. He slowed a little bit, so
right. Maybe
something like that.
Maybe the part of his passive is like a bleed. So instead of doing a full one shot, you bleed out a little bit. So initial damage and then a bleed so that you have time to react. Your healers have time to react. That is way better than just spamming head level this. And that, like, you know, still kind of sucks. But anyway, we can probably rant about this for a while. Let's move into any other characters that we have here. Venture. Explorer's Resolve. The shield health generated by her abilities have been reduced. I'm guessing just making her a little less tanky, a little less brawly in the fight, just make more punishable. Comment is, as highly mobile damage hero, Venture does not quite need as much shield health from their passive as they currently get to be successful. Even though they are a close range hero, their ability enables them to close the gap, move in, move out. So maybe they're just kind of mindfully seeing how players are playing and feeling her out as like one of the newer characters, you know, getting better at it. But yeah, I don't necessarily disagree with this one. I think this is probably not going to change much. People are still going to play it as is. Any input on you?
You can shoot her when she's underground?
No.
Can you shoot? You can't? Okay.
You can shoot her as she goes. You can shoot her as she goes in. This effective help is when you use any of the abilities, the drill dash or the burrow, you get HP, shield HP.
Why does she need them and why doesn't Reaper need them?
Generally speaking, she needs it because she's going to be brawly in their face. So they wanted to give her more effective health pool to stay in the fight and fight there. The Reaper question is a good question. Maybe that'll be a part of the rework that we're expecting coming up in the next season or two. But yes, he used to have lifesteal. I think he still does, but it's kind of like whatever now, where that effective health from the lifesteal let him stay in the fight. It wasn't given as shield. It was given as leech.
Yeah, I mean, just that's like my immediate thought is like somebody else who like gets in people's faces, does have a movement speed ability that is untargetable, right? Like, why doesn't he have a shield? Oh, he doesn't need it? Like, because he does enough damage. So like, if the damage is fine, then like, why does he need the shield in the first place? The shield doesn't, like, it's a weird part of the kit that doesn't really add any flavor to the diving up, diving down kind of thing,
Yeah, it's more,
like, it doesn't make the ground hindered. It's weird flavor wise.
It's more about effective HP, and I guess flavor wise, Venture is somebody who uses a big drill, whereas Reaper turns into a ghost. So like one uses more of a technology mindset. So shields are technology flavor. I don't know. We can go into a full lore drop, RP drop, but let's move into supports here. Moira, Coalesce's damage has been increased. She didn't feel threatening, so they're trying to make her be more damage-based Moira. All right, cool, bro. I don't think it's really going to change anything. Lifeweaver, maximum ammo increased on Thorn Volley. Increased firing duration of Thorn Volley will give Lifeweaver more damage presence, and it lines up like it's fine, but like I don't know. They're going to do that. Like it's kind of going against the whole philosophy of the design initially, which he needs a big change, but I don't think this is it, bro. I don't think this is just going to make him a bigger pick overall for stupid reasons.
The charge up shouldn't exist. Like in general, like it shouldn't exist. It should like, maybe it should just be like a toggle kind of thing for like when you're healing, like you toggle and you use more or you use less because you don't need it. And then you just have to actively think on that. But the charging aspect is like really not fun.
You're talking like about the primary fire, the healing, right?
Yeah. Like it's just not, it's not fun. So, and like the auto charging, it's just like, it's a stupid Band-Aid.
Yeah, it's still going to be awkward to switch back and forth because he uses the same hand, right? When he does it animation wise. And like, that's been something they've been stuck on the whole time. They really should just Moira it where it's like one hand heals, one hand damages kind of thing. But generally speaking, his kit is all passive, defensive value, reactive value. It's been designed that way. It's been slightly adjusted. And like the platform change was an excellent change. This change, I don't know if it's gonna make people more like damage based. It's not gonna make him more proactive. It's not gonna make him more aggressive. If anything, it's gonna make him slower to react, which then makes your teammates mad at you. But anyway, let's move into Zen. All right, a lot of words in the dev comment there. Let's see what they have to say after we check out the changes. Destruction Orb damage has been increased from 48 to 50, a small damage increase on the primary fire. And then Orb of Discord cooldown has been reduced from 7 to 6 seconds. Small change, but probably testing the waters on that. Probably mostly for tanks. Zen hasn't been played at the pro level. It's just not worth it. You know, that extra damage, which would be great for a bigger health pool, is probably not worth it because he's got no utility for his team and he just gets dove in this Diva Winston meta. Let's see what the devs have to say here. With the current addition of more speed boosts in the game, Zen and generally more poke-oriented team compositions by extension have fallen off a bit due to how immobile and vulnerable be. Also, on a note, poke-heavy comps were a big deal because players are lazy. You get so much value from just poking and just like, being here and then bop, 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 right? Like, why do I need to run to you to do that? Do you have to do that for dive? You have to do that for rush and brawl? Poke heavy comps like has been some of the biggest percentage of comps played because it's easy. So yeah, they've fallen off because dive has gotten faster and brawl has gotten faster, and then Zen is a glass cannon. So just kind of add that point in where it's like poke is like a lazy comp, but like it's lazy because it's effective without really having to do much. All right. Moving into the rest of the comment, we tried increasing his health in the past, but it's proven problematic. Definitely so. So instead, they're trying to lean into the glass cannon aspect of it. We're improving his damage this time, which should enable breakpoints, the new breakpoints, and how many shots are required to eliminate. This might be fine, might be fair, but I don't think he's going to see any pro play in the stage here. Nick, any thoughts here on what their comments here?
There's another champion with a kit. Like the kit's the issue. Like the kit's the issue. They need to rework them.
It's Discord Orb that's the problem. Well, and that's before with tanks it was kind of like harsh, but like it'd be interesting to see because he hasn't been played this patch where tanks are kaijus. It'll be interesting to see if it's makes a difference, that much of a difference, because you would just be nuked. And he was one of those hard meta comps in Overwatch 1. Like, just everybody would play him every chance they got. So I don't know if it's the kit.
So I mean, like every single healer in this game should actively have to decide if they're healing or dealing damage, right? Not just some of them, all of them. Like, that's all of them. Their supports, they should actively have to choose how they're helping the team. Either they're helping them with healing or they're helping them with damage. Like, and there shouldn't be a case where they're doing both at the same time. Just personal thoughts.
It's a fair idea too. And like, the what's it called? The negative here is that he can put on one person, each of them, but then it doesn't really do as much healing or as much damage. But yeah, I don't disagree with you. And Zen's kit has been that loose exception for that philosophy. And that's kind of it. I'm not really going to go over to map updates. I want to keep this one brief, but we'll see how this one goes. The big boons here, D.Va got nerfed. That's really it. Everything else kind of felt weird. Cast kind of changes, Zen change here, Venture change. Like, they seem to be maybe pushing one idea or the other. Nick, any specific walkaways on this for you? Or we're kind of good, like, just the D.Va, glad she's been nerfed.
Yeah, just D.Va. Like just change some of the kit, man. Like, some of these guys' kits, like, turn Zen into an actual DPS is what you should do. Like, the overall sense of, like, when you're talking about a support, to say, like, hey, we're going to lean into the glass cannon aspect of this support, go fuck yourself. That's like what I have to say for anybody who says that. Like, I'm not even joking. Like, from a full gamer perspective, like, you're telling me, like, the healer has a full glass, like, we're going to go glass cannon on this healer now, guys. Fuck yourself, bro. Go fuck yourself. You need to get out of the room, because we're in the support talks and you're talking about DPS. Like, right. So as far as I'm concerned, like, that's silly.
If they, and they could keep his heal as like, because like you have soldiers that put down a heal station. It's a brief temporary heal. They could even keep that orb of healing as a DPS. But like, yeah, then you start contradicting lore, etc. I don't know. It's a design.
Like lore. They don't even care about PvE in this game. They barely even care about their lore half the time.
Hold on, man. Hold on. You're going a little bit robot, dude.
I said to lore. To that. I don't play anything in this game for lore. It's not a lore game. It's a competitive online shooter. All right. That doesn't have any lore when I start the game up. I go into a game, I choose the monkey. I don't know anything about the lore. I have to go diving for the lore. I got to read a book outside the game for the lore. Like, this is more Blizzard's
to cut
MO
off your rant
outside.
To cut off your rant, you say that, but then you get situations that, like League of Legends, where the lore or the character integrity is so sporadic and changed. Where
they will put the story inside the client and have it readable for you inside the client on a regular basis. Like, I'm not even joking. Like, if a new story comes out, they got it in the client for me to do it.
But it's also character.
Anyway,
it's also character philosophy, how it plays. I don't disagree with you. It's a competitive game and it needs to have that identity first and foremost. But then, when you see a character, you should see it and go, I think this is how it works because of the way it looks and the way he moves, etc. Like, so yeah.
So you think Zen's going to deal damage? The guy who's all about being Zen and enlightenment is supposed to be a glass fucking cannon for lore purposes? He has Zen in his name. He's a fucking Buddhist for the Buddhist robot, and he's a glass cannon is in the sentence. That what? Like,
that glass cannon sentence. That glass cannon sentence is definitely problematic. Do you want a support that's a glass cannon? That's a term that you use for DPS. I think that's appropriate. But having that flavor of like, yeah, he's a Zen monk, so it's like yin and yang, push and pull, destruction versus creation. Philosophically, it's there. Lore-wise, it's there. But then that's also the natural play feel that you get when you should understand how, from that. And we've seen how he's broken. We've seen how he was a super strong character in Overwatch 1 and Overwatch 2. And that, because of the tank changes, he's fallen off. Especially, really, he's only fallen off because now people can get to him faster and he can't move away fast enough. So that's why they're changing him now. So like, again, that might also be an issue, the issue. But here's another character we could probably complain about, and the philosophy around it we can complain about for sure for hours. But we do not have hours. We've already spent a bunch of time here talking about Rocket League and League of Legends, etc. Thanks for sticking with me here on the patch notes, Nick. Any final thoughts you want to wrap us up here in the episode? Not just for Overwatch, but the things we saw with Rocket League, with Worlds, for Worlds of League of Legends as well, or even just back at the beginning, Idaho State University getting an esports team.
I think we're in. I think we're right at the cusp of like all these colleges that are going to enter into esports, and I think it's going to be a really good couple of years moving forward. And it could be that they're in for it for like the Twitch money, right? Because they're all going to start immediately streaming on Twitch instead of like YouTube, or it could be the fact that like they're really like getting into like esports and stuff like that, and like because the money's there, the people are the kids want it and stuff like that, and the Olympics are there, right? So if it's going to be if it's going to be in the Olympics, so Overwatch, all these ones that were at EWC, that's really interesting just in general. So maybe we got future Olympic athletes going to Ohio State. You never know. Like this,
you never know.
Think about it.
It's a great point. I have to second that for the most part. It's been great talking with you today. Thanks for sticking around, and thank you for sticking around watching if you're still viewing. We're here every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're talking about a world of different things. Right now I'm going to go check out the Race to World first, see how Team Liquid's doing. I think Nick might be as well. But thanks for joining us. If social media is more your vibe, if you want to check us out there, you can see clips, highlights. You can talk with us directly on our social media at the Esports Meta. We're there all the time on all your favorite platforms. So hit us up. Send us a follow. I'd really appreciate it. It's free for you guys, etc. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for being here. Nick, thanks for being here. And we'll see you next time on the Esports Meta.